started. Kick. YouTube, Twitch. What the heck is this background music? Almost over. I'll leave it. Let's get the chat. Auto. Check, check, check. We'll just do. Why is nothing showing up here? Oh, there we go. Captions are now enabled on your clips. Okay. Good. Oh, that's the wrong account. I gotta click here. Go live. They all show up. We are good. All right. Yeah. All right. So I was on a little later than usual, mostly because I had to watch the end of this game. Canada's first World Cup win, 6-0. What's the red card, man? Yeah. What's a red card in soccer mean? I know nothing about soccer or football. And the other team had 2 red cards. Red card in soccer means a player has been sent off the field and is ejected from the game. So the other team had 2 players ejected. Once a player gets a red card, they can't be replaced. So their team has to play the rest of the game a player short. What? I mean, I guess that explains at the end we were all over them, right? And if you've had 2 of your players literally ejected from the game, yeah, that's rough. For example, with 10 players instead of 11, red card comes out in 2 ways. Either a referee shows a single straight red for a serious offense, or a player. What were the offenses? Is it too soon to find them? Where can I find these? X maybe? Stop playing it. Canada Qatar game. Oh, I probably shouldn't show anything, given the first 2 I look up are this media has been disabled in response to a report by the copyright owner. So I can't even show clips. I can't even show clips, huh? All right, let me just make sure the mic. Yeah, mic's good. So we will avoid that then. All right, so there's a couple things I wanted to get into today. First, there was a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. I wanted to look into that, and then I'm gonna go through my list, and we're gonna get some more things cut off the list. Okay. Yeah. So I have a video. Warfront, one of the people I follow, who did a video on it. So we're gonna watch that. But first, I just want a basic idea of. I hear that the U.S. and Iran have signed a peace deal can you go through the terms and tell me what this peace deal is? Okay, I don't need that on until I actually watch a video. Okay. Search the web. One important thing to flag up front, this isn't actually a signed peace deal yet. Oh, okay. I thought Trump had, like, signed it in France or something. What's being reported is a draft 14-point memorandum of understanding that the US and Iran are preparing to sign, with a signing ceremony reportedly set for Friday. Okay, so this is something we'll hear more about. Ooh, I gotta start this recording. That's right. Here we go. Senior US officials read out the draft to reporters on Wednesday. That's today. Yesterday. Sorry. So, read out the draft. So that's already happened. Speaking on conditions of anonymity, because Iran has not released the document ahead of the formal signing. So the terms below are from a leak/briefed draft. Okay. So we're gonna go through it, but like when it's from a leaked draft, you can't know. We're really waiting for Friday for the official thing to come out, because everything I've seen on this has been like terribly negative. The officials on both sides have stressed that either party can walk away before anything binding is finalized. With that caveat, here's what's in it. Okay, so the terms below are from a leaked/briefed draft. Big picture. It's called the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. Crucially, it's an interim framework, not the final deal. It's essentially an agreement to stop fighting and then negotiate the real agreement within 60 days. Wasn't Trump saying like the blockade's over, ships can go through the strait now? Has that happened? Like if we'd seen that, we'd see a large drop in oil prices. Okay, well, the oil market has taken this very positively. Let me pull it up. Clearly. What is that? The 16th, so 2 days ago. And we saw a big drop. As one Atlantic Council analyst put it, there really is no nuclear agreement yet, other than an agreement to negotiate over Iran's enriched uranium stockpile and a possible enrichment moratorium. Okay. So 14 points grouped by theme. Ending the war. Points 1 to 3. Both sides declare an immediate and permanent end to military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. Ooh. That was one of those ones that's been holding it up, right? Because Israel and the Lebanon front. Iran sees that as another front to the war. And so they're really trying to get that included. And pledge not to attack each other or threaten force, while respecting Lebanon's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Did they talk to Benjamin Netanyahu about this? Because he did not seem on board in any way, shape, or form with that. They commit to respecting each other's sovereignty and not infringing in internal affairs, and to reach a final deal within a maximum of 60 days. Extendable by mutual consent. Okay. Point 4, naval/military de-escalation. The U.S. begins removing its naval blockade immediately and fully ends it within 30 days, with vessel traffic restored towards pre-war levels. The U.S. also undertakes to pull its forces away from Iran's proximity within 30 days after the final deal. Point 5, the Strait of Hormuz. Iran agrees to use best efforts for safe, toll-free passage of commercial vessels between the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman for 60 days only. What? The toll-free window is temporary. The draft provides for toll-free passage for 60 days but does not rule out fees being imposed afterwards. Iran would also handle demining and removal of obstacles within 30 days and discuss future administration of the strait with Oman and other Gulf states. That's not good. Like, it sounds like they're going to set a toll booth up on the Strait of Hormuz. And the issue you run into is that, like, this is a precedent-setting thing. As soon as one country sets up a toll going through their waters, you're going to see many other countries do the same thing. Maybe not right away, but eventually. There's a lot of choke points around the world where the waters are like, oh, it's international waters, but like it's within their territorial waters. And so that's a dangerous precedent to set. Like, we could see shipping over the oceans is by far the cheapest way to do it, and it looks like it's about to become a little less cheap, which means imported goods are about to increase in price. Not a good thing. Sorry, let me just pull this up here for a second. I like to have the timer there. Okay, let's continue. Again, we are looking at a leaked/briefed draft, and so I don't want to like go. In my opinion, the Strait of Hormuz toll, like, this is one of the things the U.S. really didn't want, and so I personally see this as capitulating to Iran if they get to put a toll booth up, because before the war they didn't get to put a toll booth up. So that is, I hope that one doesn't come out in the final one. Money and reconstruction. The U.S. commits with regional partners to a plan of at least 30 billion USD for Iran's reconstruction and economic development. Mechanisms to be finalized in the final deal. Okay, so whenever I play like a war strategy game, the winner demands monetary concessions from the loser of the war. Like that's how it works. And so Iran is getting monetary concessions from the US to end this war, right? Is Trump saying he won? Like, if you win, you don't have to pay 30 billion, and you don't have to pay 30 billion. Sorry, 300 billion. Okay, again, draft. Leaked, brief draft. This deal is starting to look like a U.S. surrender, from my perspective. They get a toll booth. They get monetary concessions. Let's continue. What else are they getting? The U.S. would issue waivers for Iranian crude oil and petroleum exports immediately upon signing, and make Iran's frozen assets fully available, payable to beneficiaries designated by Iran's central bank. Okay, so the money they frozen they get back. Sanctions. The U.S. undertakes to terminate all sanctions. What? So this is how they were stressing the Iranian economy. And they were doing this before the war as well. This is looking like an absolutely terrible deal for the U.S. Like, sorry, playing with the sound here. Like, Trump signed this? This is everything he said he didn't want. Am I missing something here? And okay, I'm not through it yet. Nuclear is the next one. Let's continue. The U.S. undertakes to terminate all sanction. UN Security Council resolution, IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, and unilateral U.S. primary and secondary sanctions on an agreed schedule as part of the final deal. Note this is waive but not fully eliminate. In the interim, the U.S. would move to waive but not fully eliminate some broad sanctions once the deal is finalized. Okay, so remove some sanctions, not all the sanctions from what I understand. Nuclear. Iran reaffirms it won't acquire or develop nuclear weapons. Pinky promise? Right? The two sides agreed to resolve Iran's stockpile of enriched material, with a baseline method being down blending on site under IAEA supervision. Oh, so you can like disenrich uranium? That's interesting. I guess if you can enrich it, makes sense. Down blending. On site under IAEA supervision. Enrichment itself and Iran's nuclear needs are left to be negotiated in the final deal. In the interim, both sides maintain the status quo. Iran freezes its nuclear program as is, and the U.S. imposes no new sanctions and deploys no additional forces. Okay, well, the nuclear was definitely the most important one. Like, preventing them from getting a nuclear weapon was, in my opinion, the primary goal of the conflict. Again, like, I don't want to take any of these at face value because it's a leaked / brief draft. But it sure seems like the U.S. is paying money. They're allowing Iran to set up a toll after 60 days. They're reducing sanctions. It seems like they're getting concessions on nuclear. The Strait of Hormuz, yeah, like some of these are really like having to pay 300 billion. Like, is that taxpayer money? They're just given to Iran? How much does the war cost them on top of that? This does not seem like a favorable deal to the U.S., no matter how I look at this. Implementation, point 13 and 14. An exclusive mechanism will monitor compliance. Negotiations on the final deal begin once specified paragraphs start being implemented, and the final deal would be locked in by a binding UN Security Council resolution. Why you should treat this cautiously. Okay, here we go. A few things worth keeping in mind beyond the terms themselves. An enforcement mechanism is essentially the threat of renewed force. Asked how the terms would be enforced, Trump said the threat of further bombing would be sufficient, saying they'd bomb the hell out of them if Iran violates the agreement. He's also downplayed his own role in signing, calling it a memorandum of understanding rather than the kind of binding document he necessarily put his name on. Okay, but like, his memorandum of understanding has you giving over $300 billion. So what, you give them the money and then you bomb them more? That doesn't seem productive. There's real skepticism about durability. Analysts have warned that a memorandum of understanding without a follow-on deal would be volatile and impossible to sustain on its own, and that there will likely be a significant gap between the aspirations in the memorandum of understanding and what actually emerges in a final deal. Israel appears opposed to any deal and is expected to use its influence to block or undermine one, especially if it views the terms as bad, because they're basically being signed up to, because they did not want to end their conflict in Lebanon. The two sides are also already framing the financial terms differently. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims the agreement provides Iran with $24 billion in frozen assets during the 60-day period, with half to be paid before talks begin. Though U.S. accounts differ, both sides are claiming victory, and energy insiders are skeptical about how fast the Strait of Hormuz can actually reopen. Well, that's true. What's keeping the strait closed is really high insurance costs. Basically, if you choose to go through the Strait of Hormuz, your asset, so massive ship that costs a lot of money, will not be insured, because your insurance companies are like, no, too dangerous, we will not cover you if you go through the Strait of Hormuz. So that is what's keeping the strait closed. And for insurance companies to be able to feel safe insuring vehicles through there, insuring boats through there again, they need a pretty high degree of certainty that nothing is going to happen. And so that doesn't happen overnight. There's been peace deals before, and then ships have been attacked, so they will likely wait for a while before they allow ships to go through insured again, which is the only way it reopens. And procedurally, it's not done domestically. How is Trump framing this as a win? Both sides are claiming victory. Like, this one, he said, will not happen. The loser is the one that gives the winner money. Sanctions, I mean, sanctions for the nuclear is kind of something you always expected, right? Like that was kind of Obama's deal. They remove sanctions and they get concessions on nuclear. And so that one makes sense, but giving them money and giving them a toll booth are two things I'm pretty sure Trump said. At least this one, he said he will not happen. 60 days. What's the date today? U.S. midterm date. U.S. midterms date. Why is it not getting it this time? U.S. midterms date. Okay. Doesn't like the November 3rd. June. August. So assuming that they signed Friday, August. So they would get a toll booth. I was looking at it because I'm like, is he just trying to put this off until after the midterms? But no. It looks like Iran will have their toll booth set up before the midterms. All assuming this deal holds. Like there's so many times we've seen the deal announced and the deal not hold. That's concerning. Okay. And procedurally, it's not done domestically either. Senate Republicans have been pressing the Trump administration for details and have signaled Congress will ultimately vote on the final agreement. Oh. I mean, Congress does stuff in the U.S. now? I mean, I thought just Trump did things. Like, he entered the war without Congress. I assume he'll just end the war without Congress as well. So the short version, there's a detailed draft framework to end the current war and negotiate towards a broader settlement. A signing was expected Friday, but it's an interim memorandum of understanding that either side can walk away from. The hard nuclear and sanctions questions are deferred to a 60-day negotiation, and several key players, Israel, parts of Congress, aren't necessarily on board. Point 5 seems to allow Iran to set up a toll booth on the Strait of Hormuz after a 60-day window. I'm pretty sure Trump came out and said that that would not happen. What changed? Like this was a sticking point. You read point 5 correctly, and the gap you're noticing is real and very much alive. Here's what changed. A short version: Trump permanent toll fee free line and the actual text of the memorandum of understanding were never the same thing, and his own team quietly confirmed the narrower version when they read the document out to the reporters. What Trump said versus what the document says. Okay. Trump made the maximalist claim publicly. After the agreement, he declared the Strait of Hormuz would reopen and remain permanently toll-free. Vice President Vance reinforced it, telling CNBC it would be toll-free for the long term. But the text only guarantees the toll-free status for 60 days. When Trump's team read the full memorandum of understanding to journalists on Wednesday, it included a formal acknowledgement that the deal would secure toll-free passage only for 60 days and doesn't preclude future fees. That's exactly the window you've spotted in point 5. What changed? Nothing in the text. Trump's framing shifted to match it. So it's less that the deal changed and more that the permanent toll-free promise was rhetorical, that the written agreement never backed up. The toll-free promise was rhetoric that the written agreement never backed up. When confronted with the discrepancy, Trump didn't insist the document would be rewritten. He pivoted to enforcement by threat. He downplayed the 60-day limit, saying the thing that will stop Iran from eventually charging tolls. Okay. He downplayed the 60-day limit, saying that the thing that will stop Iran from eventually charging tolls, because you can't cover everything in a document, is common sense, adding that they don't want to get bombed. They don't want to get hit. Then put it in the agreement. Because it certainly sounds like they're just setting up to put a toll booth there. Like, to be fair, they'll put it up right before your midterm elections. Get a like 120 day ban on it or something if you want to get past your midterms without that coming up. That's the same enforcement logic that the earlier parts of the deals. The deterrent is a threat of renewed bombing, not a binding clause. The toll versus fee sleight of hand. There's a second layer worth understanding because it's how Iran is threading the needle. Iran has consistently said it won't charge tolls but will charge service fees. Oh, they changed its name. A day after Trump's permanent toll-free declaration, Iran signaled ships could still face charges. Iran's foreign minister's spokesman said Iran was not seeking to levy transit tolls. However, fees will be charged in exchange for the services that they are providing. The service not getting shot with a drone. That's the service they are providing. Because you could transit there without paying any kind of fee before. Those service fees are framed as covering navigation-related facilities, environmental protection, and maritime support services. Oh, that's so dumb. That's so dumb. That's a toll. That's a toll. This distinction isn't just spin, it tracks international law. Under UNCLOS, ships in international straits like Hormuz enjoy a right of transit passage. They cannot be Okay, let's read that again. Under UNCLOS, Article 37 to 44, ships in international strait like Hormuz enjoy a right of passage that cannot be impeded, and coastal states may not levy charges by reasons only of passage. Fees are permitted only for specific services rendered, like pilotage, and must be non-discriminatory. Ooh, so you're saying it's legal. They're setting up a toll, but we're gonna build a very fancy toll booth that helps you get through. Yeah, you can get through on your own, and you've been getting through on your own for decades, but now you need to pay the toll. sorry, the service fee. So Iran can plausibly claim service fees are legal even where a flat toll would not be. Critics counter that Iran's blanket elective charge isn't genuinely service-based, making it a violation, and there's no post-1945 precedent for a coastal state imposing mandatory tolls on a natural strait. And Iran's negotiators have been blunt that things won't simply revert. On Wednesday, Iran lead negotiator said the Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war conditions, and that Iran will receive a fee for services to shipping. Iran has confirmed it won't collect tolls for 60 days, but per its state media, will begin charging ships for services after that period, and it has set up Persian Gulf Strait Authority and coordinated with Oman to administer traffic. Worth knowing, this fight predates the deal. This isn't new friction. Back in April, Trump posted that Iran better not be charging fees and better stop now. Iran's IRGC, so this is something that actually was they were looking into doing before the war. Iran's IRGC has been running a toll booth since mid-March, vetting foreign flag vessels mid-March. Is that before the war? That lines up pretty much right at the start of the war. The war started, and then they started charging a toll. So that's during the war. Vetting foreign flag vessels. I like how I look at the price of oil, and that's the war right there. And that's the junk. Like that's when it started. Where are we? So Iran has been trying to monetize control of the Strait for months, and the Memorandum of Understanding essentially papers over that dispute with a 60-day truce rather than resolving it. So, to directly answer what changed, the binding text never promised permanence. Point 5 always said 60 days. What changed is that Trump's public framing collapsed from permanent toll fee to common sense, and threat of bombing will keep that way. We'll keep it that way. I mean, it sounds like they're setting up the toll booth. Yeah, well, the threat of bombing will stop them from adding a toll. Meanwhile, they are building the toll booth. Threat of bombing is not working. Have you tried something else? And Iran has openly stated it intends to charge service fees once the 60-day window closes. The two sides have a genuine unresolved disagreement that the deal defers rather than settles, which is why analysts keep flagging Hormuz as the most likely thing to blow up the whole arrangement up. Oh, so this is still a point of contention. Like, this deal does not favor the US. Like, I kind of expected sanctions for the nuclear program, right? 300 billion? Like, that's just extracting money out of the US. The toll booth looks bad. Honestly, the whole deal looks really bad for the US. Again, let's leak / brief draft. I think they're supposed to sign Friday, so we'll have a much better idea tomorrow what this looks like. But man, this doesn't look good. Okay, let's watch a video on it. See if my take is the same as theirs. War fronts, the Iran war was a total failure. Well, I know which way he's gonna lean.
Will go down as one of the most incompetent ever made. The US lost on virtually every point. We just don't win anymore. Now that's a tweet about a certain Iran deal from a certain political leader in the United States. In fact, it's from Donald Trump himself, discussing the original deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran under former President Barack Obama. It's making the rounds again today, but not in a way that Trump may have hoped for. Instead, it's circulating because the results are in on his new Memorandum of Understanding with Iran, the final culmination of the war he launched alongside Israel back in February this year. And those results are, simply stated, an unmitigated catastrophe. Washington has gotten exactly none of what it set out to achieve. But it's far worse than just having nothing to show for America's troubles. The nation has suffered its worst strategic defeat since at least Vietnam. And the most damning part of it all is that this...
They didn't even put boots on the ground. Like, how have they suffered such a defeat without even putting people there? I mean, at least Iraq, like, they invaded, right?
Was entirely self-inflicted against an enemy that just months ago was in worse shape than ever. When we went to record our last episode on the Iran conflict just back on...
That's the thing. They were... Before the war, they were winning the war. Like, Iran was near a state of collapse. And if anything, the war has seemed to solidify the regime's control even more.
on Monday, news had just broken that the US and Iran had finally reached an agreement, and this time, it looked like this one was actually going to stick. Beyond that, though, the actual terms of the deal were unknown. Well, ladies and gents, the terms of the 14-point Memorandum of Understanding between the two have since been announced by the US, and the result is an absolute disaster for Washington and Jerusalem alike. And by disaster, we don't just mean this didn't quite go Trump's way, or that it's a moderate setback that the world will move past in just a matter of weeks. No. This is an epic failure of war planning and execution by Washington without precedent in American history. This MOU is already in effect, signed behind closed doors by both American and Iranian
Yeah. Like, I've seen this. He was signing it, right?
leaders, and while there is reason to question whether the deal will survive until a formal signing ceremony on Friday, any changes made to the deal itself are almost certain to be minimal in scale. In the agreement, the United States has publicly endorsed some of the most maximalist goals of the Islamic Republic's foreign policy ambitions imaginable, things they wouldn't have signed up for if there was literally any realistic alternative. What's more, the core issue that Washington ostensibly launched the war over, the nuclear component, has been kicked to a later date entirely, with Iran receiving a significant amount of relief before such a deal is even discussed, much less agreed to. To give you a sense of what's on the table here, right off the bat, this deal allocates $300 billion, with a B, to be sent to the Islamic Republic to assist with the cost of reconstruction. It has been reported that Washington wouldn't be directly bankrolling this fund with US taxpayer dollars, though it remains unclear just exactly where that
Then where do you get $300 billion?
money's supposed to come from. That $300 billion is just a sign-up bonus, if you will, for everything else that comes next. Per the terms of the MOU, quote, the United States commits to ending on a schedule to be agreed upon as part of the final agreement all types of sanctions currently facing the Islamic Republic of Iran, including resolutions of the United Nations Security Council and the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and all unilateral US sanctions, both primary and secondary, end quote. Of all the points in the agreement, that is perhaps the most impactful. Iran's economy has been absolutely...
I didn't see... Oh, well, I guess this is what they were using to harm the economy before the war even began, right?
crippled for the better part of 2 decades by one of the world's most strict sanctions regimes in history. Because they've moved the actual nuclear talks to a later stage, much of the initial relief is coming without any concessions by the Islamic Republic, aside from a pinky promise not to build a nuke, which, we should add, was a pinky promise they'd been making for years. On top of all that, the agreement reportedly unfreezes over $100 billion in Iranian assets held in long-since frozen foreign accounts, with the first $24 billion coming during the nuclear negotiations window. That's a hell of an expensive pinky promise, isn't it? Now, there is some ambiguous language in this deal, including the phrase, on a schedule to be agreed upon as part of the final agreement. It's extremely legalese, isn't it? And it's not entirely clear at the time of recording whether the full sanctions relief will come before that part is finalized. What is clear is that a considerable amount of it will be granted to Iran beforehand. The Wall Street Journal reported on Tuesday that the agreement will allow Tehran to immediately sell oil. They also highlighted...
Well, I mean, they were selling oil through like most of the war, too. It was only midway through the conflict that Trump set their own blockade to stop the oil. It's kind of crazy that they were allowing Iran to benefit from high oil prices for a while there.
That Iranian supertankers had already crossed freely through the US blockade, indicating that this part of the agreement had already
Okay, so this part's already
come
going.
into effect. And on the question of the Strait of Hormuz itself, while the agreement calls for it to be reopened in both directions, there's nothing in the text ruling out Iranian management of the waterway, including the imposition of transit tolls on ships passing through. Trump has stated that tolls will not happen, but their absence from the text is nevertheless significant. Tehran has already indicated that they'll be imposing a totally separate, completely not tolling system involving
Completely not tolling system. It's service fees.
fees to pass through. While the US's stated goals throughout the war have been difficult to pin down, it became increasingly clear that they were seeking a deal by the time the shooting mostly came to a stop in April under the first ceasefire. Now, the easiest point of comparison against which a new deal could be measured was the old Iran deal, negotiated during the Obama administration. That framework, called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, wasn't universally popular, but it nevertheless put meaningful limitations on Iran's nuclear program. Across the board, the text of the new MOU is meaningfully worse for the US than the original JCPOA was. The much maligned sign-up bonus paid to Iran the first go-around was an estimated total of $150 billion. No small chunk of change, but half that of the new Trump deal. On timing too, the original deal appears to have been far more robust. The JCPOA's implementation of sanctions relief came only after the Islamic Republic had made good on a number of actions, not words, regarding their nuclear program. This included an IAEA verification that they had shipped out better than 98% of their highly enriched uranium, the stuff that would ostensibly be used in a bomb, as nuclear energy doesn't require enrichment anywhere near this level. That was along with the dismantling of 2/3 of their centrifuges and, more or less, the destruction of their Arak heavy water reactor. So to say this is a strategic defeat for Washington would have to be the understatement of the f***ing century, no matter who might have overseen this. But given that the person is Donald Trump, things become all the more incredible, don't they? And just why Trump thought this was a good idea to jump headfirst into in the first place, we do want to take a moment to tell you about our subscriber site, Fronts.co. It's our home for everything that can't fit here on the main channel. And every week, we publish a minimum of 2 exclusive videos, 3 expert-written articles, and our weekly Middle East Roundtable podcast, where our team digs deep into the context behind what's going on in the region. For just $5 a month or $50 a year, it's all yours. Right now, that means a ton of additional Iran coverage, but it's far from Middle East exclusive. We also have ongoing coverage of Ukraine, Somalia, the Cold War between Egypt and Ethiopia, and so much more. Once again, that's Fronts.co. And now, let's get back to figuring out how the hell Donald Trump ended up here. The mind of Trump. Part of what makes this quite such a staggering setback is just how central Iran has been to Donald Trump's foreign policy during both of his terms, as well as before he even ran for office. Always a prolific tweeter, there are dozens of instances of Trump over the years blasting Iran for various moves in the region, especially on their nuclear program. He has made attacking Obama's original
It's sounding like the US is backing down and just giving Iran everything they want. Which is not how I expected the conflict to end, in any way.
JCPOA into a cornerstone of his foreign policy, and those past attacks have, of course, been making the rounds on X the last few days. Posts discussing the JCPOA, like quoting Trump, Iran was on its last legs and ready to collapse until the US came along and gave it a lifeline in the form of the Iran deal.
And his is over twice that, huh?
$150 billion, end quote. And those not exactly aging well after his recent MOU and its $300 billion were made public. Similarly, one of Trump's most consistent criticism of the JCPOA was that it focused on the Islamic Republic's nuclear program exclusively, with no mention of either their ballistic missile program or funding of proxy forces. So it has been an absolute whirlwind to find ourselves here in 2026, where the president is not just forging a deal that also lacks ballistic missile constraints, but is outright defending the Islamic Republic's right to have them in the first place. And we're not kidding. Speaking to reporters in Paris, he said, quote, "I'm saying that if other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for Iran not to have some." End quote.
Oh, he's completely changed his tune. Like, is he accepted defeat? Well, that's what it's starting to look like.
Nor does the deal meaningfully address Iranian proxies, except to state that hostilities in Lebanon are covered by the memorandum itself. So, if you find yourself dizzied by all of this, we can't exactly blame you. It's been quite a few days, to say the least. The question still stands, though. How the hell did any of this happen? While it seems like a distant memory now, given all that's happened since, 2026 kicked off with an American attack, not on Iran, but on Venezuela, the raid that arrested Venezuela's then president, Nicolas Maduro. The whole thing went just about as well as Washington could have hoped for. They stormed into the Venezuelan equivalent of the White House, arrested Maduro, and were out within a matter of hours. What's more is what didn't happen. There were no American fatalities, no long-term American occupation, and no expensive nation-building project. Trump and the administration more broadly were riding high when they decided, through their own independent decision-making process, but backed by a very eager Israeli government, that a similar operation would be possible to pull off in Iran. It might take a bit longer and require more ammo to be...
Iran's completely different. Like, their regime has been developed and designed, it's been built to withstand an attack. Like, Iran has been preparing for an American attack for decades. And it seems like they prepared well.
Expended, but the theory was similar enough. Go in, drop bombs on critical Iranian government and military infrastructure, eliminate much of their upper echelon, and within a few weeks, find someone else in the government to work with. Easy, yeah? Well, the warning signs were there from the outset that this was going to be more challenging than Venezuela ever was. 1 month before the operation kicked off, by which time it was abundantly clear that the US was gearing up for potential strikes, American Secretary of State and Viceroy of Venezuela, Marco Rubio, admitted to Congress that, quote, no one knows who would replace then Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei if he was removed from power. Minor details though, right? Well, as it turns out, no, not quite. After the initial strike on the Islamic Republic on February 28th took out Khamenei, the US struggled to find an appropriate successor, by their own admission partially because all of the candidates that they'd previously considered were, well, dead. That issue came to define the rest of the operation because it underscored a major flaw, the defining flaw even, in Washington's thinking. The truth was, simply put, that Venezuela was a fundamentally different system than Iran, where the government in Caracas was a deeply personalist system that answered directly to one centralized leader and thus was highly susceptible to a decapitation strike. Tehran has quite literally built itself around being able to survive such an operation by decentralizing command through what's known as its Mosaic Doctrine. In case, that might be a useful asset someday. It's extremely charitable to call Washington and Jerusalem's military actions a proper campaign, but to the extent that a campaign really existed, it failed to account for several other issues that quickly became apparent once the lack of viable alternative leaders became a problem. The first is perhaps the most obvious, the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has the geographic advantage of sitting alongside a narrow body of water that just so happens to carry a fifth of the world's oil traffic through it, and the Islamic Republic had long made clear that they would close it in the event of an attack. What's all the more tragic is that Washington knew all of this going in, or at the very least, should have known this going in, and seems to have chosen not to operate accordingly. When it comes to major foreign policy developments, the initial headlines are only the very first inkling of the broader impacts, and those can ricochet around for months, years, or even decades. The Iran war will have knock-on effects all its own, reverberating throughout the region and the wider world for the foreseeable future. The first place this will show up is in the ongoing negotiations where, remember, the nuclear component hasn't even been discussed yet.
So they still haven't signed any of this. We saw Trump signing in like a provisional deal. He was saying that they don't expect the final terms, even though they're not fully set, and they're going to sign Friday. They don't expect the terms to change all that much from what we were reading earlier. And he seems to think that the sanctions relief is actually the biggest concession, and not the $300 billion.
Back during the original negotiations in the 2010s, Iran came to the table under the crushing weight of international sanctions, coupled with the looming threat that Israel might just call off the whole negotiation thing and decide to begin bombing. This time, the situation could not be more difficult.
Yep.
The Islamic Republic, in the last year alone, has withstood a prolonged bombing campaign by Israel and the United States, not once but twice, and is very much still kicking. The fact that their ability to exert control over the Strait of Hormuz was able to force Washington to agree to such an extreme series of concessions has given them an ace up their sleeve, one that will serve as a long-term threat to redeploy whenever they see fit. Cooperate with us, they could say, or just close the strait again. What's more, the regime is now firmly under the control of much more hardline leaders, including the commander-in-chief of the IRGC, Ahmad Vahidi. If the negotiators of yesterday weren't exactly eager to make concessions that Washington deemed necessary, the negotiators of today make the original guys look like peaceniks. A similarly immediate change is happening with Israel, the nation that has potentially suffered even more setbacks from this war than the US did. Israel has been long bogged down in conflicts on numerous fronts, including Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria, amongst others, but they've had the full backing of their allies.
I feel like they've been in war for a long time. Like, war exhaustion is definitely a thing that'll build up in a country. Like that's how the U.S. lost the Vietnam War. War exhaustion just built up at home against it, and I feel like Israel has been in conflict after conflict after conflict, without really any breaks. And I imagine, because I think they got elections coming up soon, they're probably going to go through a pretty extreme change
in Washington throughout it all. While Israel is unlikely to completely lose their backing overnight, especially if threatened with anything along the lines of a massive attack, there has nevertheless been a wedge driven between the two allies that seems to be turning into a permanent rift. Part of that comes down to this Memorandum of Understanding, which explicitly includes a call for a, quote, immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, end quote. The US has agreed to this on Israel's behalf, but the Jewish state has been far more reluctant, due in no small part to the fact that it wasn't exactly there to participate in the talks themselves. They've been maintaining that they will not abide by the terms as they pertain to Lebanon.
Oh, Israel says it is not bound by Lebanon's ceasefire clause in the Memorandum of Understanding agreement. So doesn't that just mean it's all hot air? Because if Israel doesn't stop its conflict in Lebanon, I think that will destroy the Memorandum of Understanding. I mean, the current Memorandum of Understanding is really disfavorable to the U.S., in my opinion. But that's what they're going for, I guess.
Both during the negotiations and after the memorandum was finalized, a stance that has increasingly drawn Trump's outrage. There was the now infamously spicy phone call. No, not that kind of phone call, that would be weird, but the kind where people scream at each other down the line between Washington and Jerusalem 2 weeks ago. Among the notable Trump quotes from that call, "You're fucking crazy," and "Everyone hates Israel." But that proved to be something of a warm-up act for what's come after. Just the other day,
what?
Trump reportedly had another heated phone call with the Israeli premier, telling Axios, quote, "Why did Bibi have to do a fucking attack in Beirut? I was so pissed off, I let him know. He has no fucking judgment."
And Beirut is their capital, so... Israel map Google. Because most of the conflict, from my understanding, okay, better. Where's our line? Here we go. So most of the conflict is in the southern part here, against Hezbollah. And Beirut is way up here. But like, Hezbollah commanders or whatnot will stay in Beirut, so this is like where they'll organize stuff. But the conflict is actually all down here, and so them striking up into Beirut is what pissing Trump off. Look at all the lines, like where. They don't agree on borders, I'm assuming, or what those lines mean. Okay,
And
let's
I let
continue.
him know that. End quote. The remarkable development here is that when it comes to Jerusalem's operations in Lebanon, it is the United States and Iran that are now ostensibly on the same side. They're both pushing for Israeli restraint above all else, although through very different methods. The fact that that sentence is even something we could say out loud tells you just how far things have shifted, doesn't it? If
Yeah.
all of this weren't enough for you, there are the more long-term implications of this debacle. When a country as geopolitically important as the US stumbles, the rest of the world notices, and it can embolden other powers to think they can begin getting away with more. Afghanistan can serve as a useful, if
Well, I mean, if a toll booth goes up, you can expect more toll booths to go up.
There's comparison here. Fiona Hill, a leading scholar on Putin and former NSC staffer during Trump's first term, publicly argued that the botched withdrawal in 2021 signaled weakness that the Russian president read as something of a green light to invade Ukraine without risking a strong American response. Whether that same effect takes hold in Beijing, Moscow, Pyongyang, or another capital entirely is too soon to tell. But let's just say that we're not exactly rushing to book our next flight to Taipei, or to Latvia, or even to Seoul. And by the way, don't travel to Ethiopia's Tigray region either, but more on that in a couple of days. If there is one positive thing we can say about all of this, it's that after recognizing that the war strategy wasn't working, Trump did the one thing that precious few politicians are willing to do. Rather than doubling down and escalating, he ended the war outright. This is hardly something to celebrate, given how much has been lost strategically, but nevertheless, the decision has been recognized as the right thing to do. Moreover, the choice stands in stark contrast to
you put boots on the ground or you sign a ceasefire deal. Oh, hey, what's going on, Kelly?
the actions of men like Russian President Vladimir.
Just watching about the Iran ceasefire deal that has come up. Doesn't sound like it's going so well. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing? Almost done this, and then I'll be picking a new topic. Stick around. I'll let you pick if you want. I only got 30 seconds.
Vladimir Putin, who has thrown away an incredible mass of human life for absolutely dismal gains in Ukraine. That being said, there is little doubt that this deal will be remembered as one of the worst in American history. That is in.
So, just a recap. The current memorandum of understanding has one, they're bringing an end to the war. Oh, I cannot stream daily. No. Half my time is I find that for every hour I stream, there's like an hour and a half of editing I gotta do. I currently stream Monday, Thursdays, like 6 to 10 or 11 or something in there. Okay, so the current deal ends the war, the de-escalation. It sounds like Iran's getting to set up a toll booth that they're calling service fees rather than toll fees. The US is committing $300 billion for rebuilding. They're getting sanctions relief, and the nuclear deal is going to be talked about within 60 days. So, not exactly a good looking deal. Obama's deal only cost them $150 billion, and he got better restrictions in place. Right now, I mostly stream news. I used to play in the beginning. I played League, but there's not. If you're a small League streamer, nobody checks you out. So I mostly stream to create YouTube content that I can then post on YouTube, because I think that's where I'll see more growth. Despite the fact that right now the only place I've seen any growth is really Kick. So I'm gonna have to look into that one more. Oh, thanks for the follow. We're up to 3. If you're interested, you can pick a topic to talk about next. These are the ones I'm coming into. By the way, I'm into animations and do hard draw digital art basically for streamers. Oh, I mean, if you give me a link, I might check it out after the stream. Okay, well, I'm gonna post. We listened to this one. This was the Iran war was a total failure by Warfront. How do I? Okay, send it to all 3. There we go. You got Discord or Insta? No, I'm gonna set that up, but I'm kind of new to the whole streaming thing, and the clip stuff. If you give me an Insta name, I actually have someone else I had to check out on Instagram. I guess somebody else came in here. I just haven't actually set it up yet. Okay, let's cut because we're gonna move on. It sounds like the memorandum of understanding is Trump just backing out of the conflict, but we won't know till Friday and they sign something. That's my Insta. Okay, I had that somewhere. Yeah. 374. I think I have an Insta set up actually. Let me. Instagram? Am I logged in? Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. It definitely knows I'm Canadian. the first thing that shows up. Our first World Cup win ever. Follow on Insta. How do I grab that from here? Will it let me? It will. It will. Search maybe? I don't know. I don't use Instagram. I'm guessing that's you. Okay, well I'll give you a follow. But I'll look into stuff later after the stream. Where was this other? This was the other guy I said I'd follow a couple days ago. Oh goodness. Yeah. A lot come up for that one. Well, that's just gonna how do I see my name? Elevations. Oh, I had to add the S again. I had to do that on X too. Because elevation was taken. So there's a couple places I've had the S. Alright, well I'll check that out later. Let's see what we're gonna get into next. Oh. Well, thanks for checking out the stream. Provincial governments. I gotta start getting some of these off. I wanna look at the safe social media real quick, because that's a new bill. Could you reply on Insta? I'll look into that after the stream. I'm gonna move on. I gotta keep the content going. What's this? Meat Claude design? Not now. Can you give me details about the Safe Social Media Act in Canada? What does it cover? Is there a date when it's going to go into effect? So, from my understanding, the Safe Social Media Act is something that's copying the it's copying Australia's social media ban for children. I think it's under 16 that they're still looking at. I know it's been tabled. Nothing's been passed. Oh, sure. Thanks. I'll check that out. But nothing's been passed yet. But now that we have a majority government, things are actually they're actually getting stuff through at a decent pace. So let's have a read about it. And I could probably also find a clip about this. Safe social media. Because they should be talking about this here, right? let's see. Ottawa could actually enforce a social media ban for kids. That's like a documentary. I kind of just want a clip. Yeah. I'm not going to go into one of the big ones. All right, let's just have a read, see what we find out. Here's what I found. Note up front on your effective date question, there isn't one yet, and it's likely years. Oh, goodness. Like, I thought because we had a majority, things would move forward a little quicker. But it's saying it's still likely years away. I'll explain why below. Okay. What it is. The Safe Social Media Act is Bill C-34, introduced in the House of Commons on June 10th. Like that's just a week ago. It would enact two new pieces of legislation: the Digital Safety Act, the substantive rule, and the Digital Safety Commission of Canada Act, which creates a new independent regulator to enforce them. I mean, that's important. It's worth knowing this is essentially a revival of earlier effort. It builds on the government's past attempt to establish an online harms framework, reviving several key proposals from the previous bill, C-63, the Online Harms Act that was proposed in 2024 but never passed. Okay, so they've been trying to get this passed for a while then. I guess this is the effect of seeing Australia pass one, right? As soon as one country passes one of these pieces of legislation, all of a sudden other countries are more willing to pursue it, because like you could see the effects of it already in Australia. And from my understanding, Australia is actually doubling down on their social media ban for children. So we got a live test case of that. What it covers. Despite the social media name, the scope is broad. It regulates social media services, AI chatbot services. This is one that's weird. Like, I personally never liked my AI trying to pretend it's a person to me. Like, I enjoy using it like I would use a more advanced version of Google to collect data, aggregate it, and then provide me with information like I do here. This is how I enjoy using social media. I mean, enjoy using AI. As soon as it starts to talk like a person, like I know Claude, they fixed it. Claude had an issue where when their voice mode, they didn't have this one. All they had was this one, and you click this, and then all of a sudden it starts like having a conversation with you. That is a hard no for me. I don't want my AI doing that, and having that for kids is really, it's weird. I don't know what effect it's gonna have. Like, there's a lot of talk about, like, are the children okay? And in my opinion, I looked into this a little bit, and there's more ways you can screw up parenting. But generally, the kids, like, they're fine. They're learning a different skill set than what we did, obviously, as when we were kids. But that is them adapting to their new reality. Like, kids adapt to the reality you raise them in, and the fact is, the current reality we're raising them in there's a lot of like digital and online stuff, and this doesn't lend well to traditional learning, because there's actually data that shows there's a cognitive decline, but that's in a standardized test format, and we know like the digital aspect in social media hurts attention spans, and that just directly hurts a child's ability to perform on standardized testing. And so you see that across the board. And there's COVID in there that just screwed up a bunch of them. And we never fixed that problem. But the AI chatbot services for children, that's, I agree that it should be banned. I don't think all AI should be banned, but the chatbot services I think are dangerous. And other online services. Okay, I don't know what that is. The obligations are organized under 3 core duties. A duty to protect children, which requires regulated services to implement design features to make their services safe for children. A duty to act responsibly, which regulates services to assess and mitigate risks associated with exposure to 7 categories of harmful content. Apply labels to synthetically generated content. Ooh. This is something we should have had a long time ago. And provide clear ways for users to flag harmful content and block other users. So, I see what you're trying to do here, Canadian government, but like, if you want this to be successful, I personally don't see social media as bad for children. I see our current version of social media being extremely bad for children. Like, I largely view something like Facebook or social media as like a playground, for example, except it's opaque. Like, it's covered in fog. You can't see anything that happens on the playground, because, you know, unless you're directly interacting with someone there, you don't know what's going on. Also, the playground is open to the public, and anyone who feels like it can show up and talk to your children on this playground. There is no supervision. Like, there's a reason when you let kids go out to recess that there is a supervisor out there. And even then, like, shit happens. And social media in its current form doesn't have supervision, allows anyone in the public to show up. It's just flawed. It's just deeply flawed. There is a way you could do social media for kids that is beneficial. If there is like a supervisor aspect, if you do the digital ID system so that children are talking to children, and you don't just allow any random adult to go in and talk to children through a digital ID system, which, if you want to fix the problem, you need a government-based digital ID system. It's the only way you'll fix it. Because, I mean, I don't think social media is going to go away. They'll always find a way to engage with social media if they want to. The goal shouldn't be to remove it. It should be to allow it to be safe so that it is beneficial to the kids rather than detrimental to them. And I think you could set that up, but for profit probably will never set that up. You'd need to force that into creation through regulation. And rather than doing that, they're siding on let's just ban it. Which, I mean, I think it'll have mixed results. Let's continue. So, where were we? Apply labels to synthetically generated content. Always should have been there. Like, I already have an issue and I'm computer literate, and some AI is already good enough that like I don't catch it, and I find myself like going into the comments and seeing if people are tagging it as AI. AI should always be labeled, and it should be forced to do that in order to post it, because that is going to cause problems. That is going to cause so many problems. And provide clear ways for users to flag harmful content and block other users. Again, always should be possible. A duty to make certain content inaccessible, requiring the rapid removal of content that sexually victimizes a child or re-victimizes a survivor, or intimidate content communicated without consent, including deepfakes. Like, we've seen kind of like an evolution here, where deepfakes used to be of famous people, because the technology to do it was so extreme, and so it was tough to do, so it was usually done to famous people or popular actors or whatever. It's become so easy to do now that I think it was 1 in 3 young women have faced an issue with deepfakes. Let me confirm that statistic before we go on. Because that was one of the wild claims. I remember hearing a statistic where 1 in 3 young women have been a victim of deepfakes. Is this true? Where did this come from? Like, it's just so easy to do nowadays that it's hard to trying to get the government or some kind of regulator to police this is going to be difficult, because AI is getting to the point where it is difficult to tell the difference between an AI and reality. And if you give people the ability to take down any content, then all the content is going to get taken down, because someone's going to dislike everything. And so regulating this and getting this right is important, because like victimizing people with deepfakes is a terrible thing to have happen. It is absolutely something that they should be able to remove. But how you do that without allowing people to just remove any content they don't like it's a difficult tightrope to walk. Let me see. The short version, the statistics you heard 1 in 3 young women have been a victim of deepfake doesn't appear to match any real findings. It looks like a compilation of several different 1 in 3 numbers that measure quite different things, and the actual victimization rate that researchers have found are much lower. Well, okay, well let me see the actual victimization rates. Here's where the confusion likely come from. Okay, a couple of other nearby numbers that may have fed into the version you heard. A UK Girl Guide survey found that over 1 in 4 of respondents aged 13 to 18 said they had been a sexualized deepfake. They had seen a sexualized deepfake of a celebrity, friend, teacher, or themselves. Okay, that's seeing one. Bottom line. Okay, what is solidly established is that the harm is heavily gendered. Multiple analysts find that 96 to 98% of deepfake videos online are non-consensual pornography. 99 to 100% of victims in deepfake pornography are female. 99 to 100. So this is the 99.99999. They rounded right to 100. So women are overwhelmingly the targets of the deepfakes that do exist. But that statement about who gets targeted, not the share of all young women who've been targeted. Okay, if this statistic isn't good, then what is the good statistic? Can you find me the correct statistic then? Let's say between 18 and 30, what percentage of women have been affected by deepfakes? What percentage of women have been affected by okay, let's see what it comes up with. I don't remember where I saw that. Maybe it was TikTok. Scrolling, but it was something like 1 in 3 women had been affected. Young women, like I'm saying 18 between 30, but probably younger than that, like 18 and 24, probably the generation that more actively uses things like AI, and then like, okay, well we're gonna get the actual statistic, so that there isn't a published statistic. Okay, what percentage now? I just want something close. 2024 UK surveyed about 2,000 adults and found that 1 in 10 reported either being a victim of deepfake pornography, knowing a victim, or both. 9%. Note this bundles being a victim together with knowing a victim, so the share who were presently targeted. But it also says adults, and like if you're over 30, you probably don't even know what AI is. Or you don't actively use AI in the same way. What else is there? Research approach it differently. They found 43% of people aged 16 plus said they had seen at least one deepfake in the past 6 months. 1 in 7 said they had seen a sexual deepfake. Of that group who'd been sexual deepfake, 64% said it was a celebrity or a public figure. Okay, so it doesn't appear this issue is quite as widespread as the original statistic I heard sounds. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're the victim of a deepfake, it is a terrible thing. And so having legislation that helps you remove that, I think is good, as long as the legislation is done right. Because if it's 9%, so that's like less. The issue is it is a growing percentage. Like this is a growing problem as things like Grok image allows you to more easily generate a deepfake image. But not as bad as I thought it was. Okay, let's continue. The most attention-grabbing piece is the age restriction, a temporary prohibition on social media accounts for persons under the age 16, backed by age verification obligations on some operators. The only way you're ever going to get this is government ID. Like, it's the only way you can ensure this is done right. As much as I dislike the idea of a government ID, with the advance of AI and stuff like that now, it's almost necessary. Like, I wouldn't say you need it everywhere, but I think you need it for most social media at this point. And if you required a government ID, you could ensure people under the age of 16 were not on there. And without that, they'll just pretend, like, hold a piece of paper up of a photo of someone who's over 16, and gosh, you can get in. I mean, when I was a kid, all you had to do was lie. Just that the little date thing would pop up, and you go, oh, let me just scroll down a ways. Like, some people, I imagine, would count like 18 years. No. I was probably like 40 or 50 most of the time. Because I just click and then just scroll. Okay, that's old enough. Uh, there are also some notable AI-specific provisions. It introduces new obligations specific to AI chatbot services, including crisis intervention requirements and a prohibition on chatbots posing as humans. Ooh, can't have chatbots say they're people. I like it. Enforcement will run through the Digital Safety Commission of Canada, a new independent regulator with substantial investigatory and enforcement powers. Operators would have to submit a digital safety plan to the Commission, and people in Canada could file complaints about prohibited content. On targeting, the part you're asking about, there's no, in fact, enforced date, and you shouldn't expect one soon. The bill is at first reading only. It is only being debated in Parliament, referred to committee, or subjected to amendment. So, still a long way from law, but this one also failed. Something similar failed last time, but that was before Australia was able to pass one. And so I think this one will, like, as long as they get the wording right, I think they can get it passed. And I think it's probably a good thing. On top of that, most implementation details are left to regulations that haven't even been proposed yet. So enactment is likely several years away, even if Parliament passes it quickly. So practically speaking, the under 16 ban and everything else are proposals at this stage, not law. If you're tracking this for specific reasons, the thing to watch is whether it survives committee and what the actual regulations end up specifying, since that's where the real operation requirement will be. Has there been any update to the Australia social media ban? I hear that they were going to implement further steps. Yeah, because I looked into that earlier too. Okay. Okay. It's still going. Let's look. Yes, there have been several developments since the ban took effect. Here's where things stand. The baseline Australia's under 16 social media ban came into force on December 10th, 2025, making it the world's first national ban of its kind. 10 platforms fall under it: Facebook, Instagram, Kik. Oh, Kik? Twitch. Okay, Twitch is here too. Facebook, Instagram, Kik, Reddit, Snapchat, Threads, TikTok, Twitch, X, and YouTube. Oh. So they went for just the big actors. And Threads. With non-compliance fines up to 50 million Australian dollars. By mid-January 2026, the government announced that more than 4.7 million accounts judged to be held by under 16s have been deactivated, removed, or restricted. Now, the further steps you heard about, there are really three threads. The definition was quietly broadened on March 25th, 2026. The Minister for Communications registered the Online Safety Age-Restricted Social Media Platforms Amendment Rule 2026. This added new conditions to what counts as an age-restricted platform. Specifically, the mentioned definition now capture platforms with a recommender feature, algorithms that select and display content based on a user's account information, and/or endless feed type features. The government also registered a rule ensuring the definition includes platforms that have addictive or otherwise harmful design features. So now they're trying to get the once you've got these ones banned, you're trying to make sure that a new one can't just show up and preemptively ban it. This is a meaningful shift in framing. Rather than just being about mental health harms, the law is now explicitly targeting compulsive by design features, the algorithm feed itself. It's worth noting this is one analyst's interpretation, but the rule text does write recommender algorithms and endless feeds into legal definition. I mean, this is just an expansion of it, right? They're still iterating on it to try and get it right. You're never going to get it right without some kind of digital ID, preferably done by the government. And the simple thing is, you would just enforce social media that is active in your country to use the digital ID system, and therefore you couldn't get access without a digital ID, and you can only, just kind of like how you have to show an ID card to get into a bar. You'd have your digital ID to get into social media. Same system. It's worked well enough, right? Sure, there's slip-ups, and some people get through with fake ID, but it's significantly better than no ID. Enforcement is escalating. As of around May 2026, E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant moved from a cooperative industrial phase into an enforcement stance. 5 platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube, are under investigation for potential non-compliance, with a decision on enforcement actions expected by the middle of the year. None have been fined yet. A compliance report found the major platforms weren't fully complying. If you start actually charging them, what was it, like almost 50 million Australian dollars? What's an Australian dollar? Australian dollar to Canadian dollar. Ooh, basically right on. So that's 50 mil. Like, is that per? You're gonna charge that per non-compliance? Like that'll get them to comply real quick. Compliance report found the major platforms weren't fully complying. Okay, the platform list keeps growing. eSafety has been adding services individually. Wiz, Lemon8, ByteDance, and Bingo Live have all been notified as meeting the conditions, though Bingo Live enforces an 18+ minimum. The list reflects eSafety views as of December 2025 and March 2026. It may continue to change as new services emerge or existing ones evolve. They're not, without digital ID, you're never going to get it right, and you're also not being nearly aggressive enough with it. There's a lot of video games like that also function as social media platforms. Roblox being a major one, and if you don't start looking at those, you'll never fix the problem you're trying to fix. What's still being debated? There's ongoing discussion about whether the ban should expand further. Report has flagged a loophole for gaming apps and exclusions for messaging apps like WhatsApp and Messenger, plus other platforms with social networking features. Roblox was initially considered, then exempted. The open questions are whether eSafety will widen its compliance checks beyond those 5 mainstream platforms, and whether self-assessment by tech companies is sufficient. One angle that might interest you given your streaming setup on the list and Twitch and Kick are both on the list, and Twitch was actually added less than 2 weeks before the December 10 launch. So the live streaming category is squarely in scope, which is a contrast to how Canada's Bill C-36 is approaching things. Okay. I generally think a social media ban for under 16 is a good idea. I don't think any of them are approaching it in a way that'll be successful yet. To mitigate the harm you want to mitigate, you can't just ban kids because they'll find a way around it, right? The ones that want to will find a way. You have to construct a system that they can engage in a more beneficial way. Like, social media by its design is not inherently damaging to people. It's largely how it's used or how it's not regulated that then causes damage. If children just had a social media like a playground, but it was actually regulated and you had supervision that could prevent like the bullying and I know it gets weird in there where you want to actually draw the line, but like you shouldn't allow adults in talking to kids unsupervised. Like, that is just generally something you should not allow. This, like, it's not inherently bad, but usually leads to bad results. Like, the people messaging children on social media usually don't have good intention, so you shouldn't allow that to happen. Like, but if you do it properly, it could be beneficial. Looks like countries right now are going for the ban route rather than the digital ID route, which is what I think would be far more successful at I mean, it would be far more successful for everyone. Alright, well, I'm going to move on. Sounds like our Safe Social Media Act in Canada is a long way from passing. Committee phase, well, we got to follow it and see what happens. I will throw it up at the bottom of my list as things to check in at some point later. Okay, we're gonna cut. How do I do that again? Here we go. It's wild. My vertical view actually gets a lot more of the room than the one I have here. Maybe I'll play around with that, but not right now. Okay. Where was I? I want to look into Meta. Like, from my understanding, Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook, right? Actually, I'm gonna grab a drink. I'll be right back, and then we're gonna look into Meta. Okay, I'll be right back. Need my sandals. Alright. Oh, let's have a look at Meta. I guess we need a new one, right? Some of these songs are so much quieter than others. Okay, things are going well. I've heard a lot about how much money Meta is spending. Can you tell me about the multiverse they're trying to create? What's going on there? Spending on the metaverse. Can you tell me about them? What's going on there? Here we go. Because, like, for how much they've spent, have they created a product that provides anything yet? The thing they're being pouring their money to is the... Okay, so isn't the metaverse their attempt at a multiverse? Or their attempt at creating an all-encompassing program, essentially? Okay, let's continue. I think there's been a small mix-up in terms of worth clearing up first. Meta isn't building a multiverse. That the physics, sci-fi idea of many parallel universes, okay. The thing they're being pouring their money into is the metaverse, a persistent set of shared virtual and augmented reality spaces you'd access through VR headsets and AR glasses. Let me pull the latest on what their spending actually looks like, since the numbers shift every quarter. Okay. So you need a VR headset. Not gonna happen. You need to make it. Maybe you can design it for a VR headset, but it needs to be accessible through a phone. You just need to be able to access it. Maybe there are specific metaverses that are VR only, but the mass majority of it must be accessible through your phone, or you will not see wide adoption. And something like this needs wide adoption. Like, I have never seen a product that has been limited to a VR headset like go viral and get a huge player base. VR headsets are very much a niche. I don't know what AR glasses are. So like a simplified version. A headset not designed for gaming, but for interacting digitally. I mean, if you can get the price down, $839, $449, and that's 54% off. 620. These cost more than like an actual gaming headset. Like, you need to get those under $100 if you want this to take off. Like, many consoles greatly subsidize the console itself, because buying the console has you enter their ecosystem, and then they can make money from you in the products they offer to you inside the ecosystem itself. But you will never, at $629, you will never see widespread adoption. And so trying to trying to force it to be a VR headset or AR glasses only thing is just, it will not work. Not until AR glasses get under $100. Here's the real picture, and it's a bit different from the way the metaverse story usually gets told. The metaverse was Meta's bet, announced by Zuckerberg, renamed Facebook. Announced when Zuckerberg renamed Facebook in October 2021. That immersive virtual and augmented reality worlds would become the next major computing platform after smartphones. So he's trying to create the next thing from smartphones. We've seen a lot of different devices attempt to like usurp the smartphone, until it's a chip that you just get like planted either on like a thing you wear on your head or planted into your brain. I don't think that's gonna happen. Being a smartphone isn't a large inhibitor to people. Glasses suck. As someone who's gone through and gotten the surgery, the laser eye surgery, so that I don't need glasses, glasses suck. Building your thing around needing glasses is not a good idea. Like, that is a way to burn money. What was that thing? It's not. Elon Musk is working on some kind of neural implant. What is the most recent update on that? Because this is a field that's actually facing extreme advancement right now, and until the Neuralink, this is it. Yes. Images. Like, some of them are still seem pretty extreme, but the littler ones, until you get like an implant like this, I don't think the full virtual reality stuff is going to become mainstream. Like, it's always going to be niche. Okay, the big Neuralink is something I would like to look in detail, but I feel like that's a tangent I don't want to go on right now. So we're just gonna switch it out and get back to what we were talking about. So, become the next major computing platform after smartphones. The rebrand came with a promise that immersive virtual worlds would define the next era of computing. The vision was things like Horizon Worlds, a social VR space you enter through a Quest headset, virtual offices and events, and eventually lightweight AR glasses. Like, I mean, it's the first step to like VR gaming. The thing is, you can usually look at like other industries to see where things are going, and the fact is that VR gaming has simply not taken off like so many people thought it would. The technology just isn't there yet to make it widespread. And so this is something that's like parallel, and they're trying to create like the virtual parallel worlds in VR. don't get me wrong, there are some products, some VR products that do quite well. Like, you can make a VR product and actually like make a profit, but the widespread adoption just isn't there yet. We're a long way from Sword Art Online, and you kind of got to get there before you'll see the widespread adoption of it. On the money, the spending went through Meta's Reality Labs division, and the losses are staggering. Reality Labs recorded cumulative operative losses of about 83.6 billion from 2020 through 2025. That's roughly 21 quarters of losses, averaging about 4 billion each. To put the scale in perspective, in 2025 alone, Reality Labs generated 2.21 billion revenue, but lost 19.19 billion. Oh, the thing that makes this current is that the metaverse era is essentially winding down. Wait, so they lost next to 100 billion, and now they're winding it down? What? The adoption simply never arrived at the scale Meta hoped for, and the company is now pulling back. I mean, you should. Do what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink. That is the thing that'll replace the smartphone. Probably, I'd say we're probably 15 years out, based on how technology is advancing. I'd say 15 to 20 years before you have. I mean, I imagine the first one, as you see, are ones that they put actually like inside your brain, and I mean, I don't think I'll ever get that one, but they can probably make ones that'll interact with the brain, but externally. And once you get that technology, that is when I think you'll see widespread adoption, because that is when we get things like Sword Art Online, which is something I would like to see before I die. Come on, we can get there. Zuckerberg has been cutting the metaverse budget by roughly 30%, halting some projects and reallocating resources, with layoffs in 2026, including a 10% cut to Reality Labs' roughly 15,000 person workforce. Okay, so let me give you the lowdown on how these things work. If you want something to be successful, like the metaverse, you need to do one thing. You need to allow users of your product to make money using your product. Like in Roblox, which is the closest thing we have to an actual metaverse, you can create products, and then people can play your products and give you money through the monetization system used in your product. They created a system that allows the user to become a creator and generate money. And that is how you create a metaverse. Not paying employees. That won't work. Sorry to tell you. Also, really helps if you can have it on your phone. Like a lot. Like I say, that's currently, that's one of the core things for adoption. The thing that makes this current, okay, where was I? Where's the money going instead? AI. This is the key plot twist. Meta is now preparing to spend more in a single year on AI than it lost over 6 years on the metaverse. The company's projected capital expenditure of 125 to 145 billion for 2026, driven primarily by AI infrastructure. as it races to keep pace with companies like OpenAI and Anthropic. The new flagship goal is building advanced AI rather than virtual worlds. I mean, the metaverse wasn't a bad idea, but the first true metaverse will be created through a video game. It just will. Roblox is the closest thing right now, and I mean, you just got to do it better, right? I don't think going for the metaverse was incorrect. I think how they went about it was incorrect. Like, I'd like to see you spent 83.6 billion on it. How much of that went to people who use the product? Maybe I'll ask that next. Let's finish. One quirk worth noting. Even with the fading metaverse, the hardware did win its niche. The Meta's Quest headset dominates the VR market with roughly 75% share. They just never became profitable, which tells you the problem was less about Meta's execution and more that mainstream demand for VR never materialized. It never did. The Ray-Ban smart glasses have arguably been the most successful piece of the bet. Ray-Ban smart glasses. What are these? So these are those glasses things, right? Cost. How much are these ones? These ones, $400 bucks ish. Not low enough. But you can't make them lower without the infrastructure to profit from the people using them. And I'll be honest, as someone who used to wear glasses, glasses are not the future. They are not. You want the future is gonna look like that. That feels less invasive to me than glasses. Ideally, you don't have to cut my skull open though. Alright, let's continue. The Ray-Ban smart glasses have arguably been the most successful piece of the bet. To sum up what's going on there, Meta spent about $84 billion trying to build the metaverse. The public mostly didn't show up, and the company has quietly shifted from metaverse first to AI first, while continuing to spend at an even larger scale. I mean, Facebook brings them in some crazy profits. The virtual world dream didn't so much explode as get gradually deprioritized in favor of the AI race. Want me to go into deeper on any one thread? I mean, VR adoption stalled because VR headsets suck. AI pivot is going. So basically, they've shifted from trying to create the metaverse to just being another AI company. I mean, we got a lot of AI companies, but it does seem like every major profitable company is now trying to be an AI company. And that just seems to be where the profits are. I like Musk's twist with Neuralink. That's absolutely something I'm going to look more into later. But basically, spending all that money and having it set so you have to use VR headsets and AR glasses doesn't work. Like, I could have told you that. And probably saved you a heck of a lot of money. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on. Let's switch that. Okay. What should we talk about now? I'm gonna go through the news after I cover maybe like one or two more stories. You know what? Why don't we just do Neuralink? We just got on the list. Can you describe to me the current process of Neuralink? What are some of the situations that it's currently used, and what can it currently do? Let's have a look. I feel like Neuralink is one we could probably get a good video about. Hey, Neuralink's got its own first brain chip implant patient. What? 2 years ago? I mean, for something that is advancing so quickly, creating art with the mind 1 month ago, automated neurosurgery with robotics, from neural signals to life-changing impact. Translating through speech. Neuralink live update. Someone's playing Civ. Okay, let's watch that one. These are a lot of these are short, so we'll watch a couple of them. Surgical procedure and recent capacity. The page content didn't fully load. Okay, well, search for something elsewhere. Here's where Neuralink stands as of early to mid 2026. The core product is active use. The core product in active use is called telepathy, a brain-computer interface built around the N1 implant. It's designed to record and decode movement-related signals from the motor cortex. So, from my understanding, like when I was in university, they had this thing where you could put on your head and you could read your brain signals. And that time they were just playing around with if you think really hard about something, you can get a certain brain signal, and then you could use that brain signal in the machine to cause a movement. That was like the initial steps to this. Obviously, once you're implanting it, you can read much more delicate signals and much more precisely. Like, I think back when I was in university, they had a product where if you moved your head, it would read your brain signals and it would like move an arm or something. But it needed like significant movements and stuff. Come a long way from that. It's designed to record and decode movement-related signals from the motor cortex. It's like at the back of the spine. Maybe this isn't even a brain implant. Maybe this is like a spine implant. Motor cortex. No, that's brain. Motor cortex is part of your brain. So then do you implant this under the skull? That is certainly what it looks like they do. Just Drill a tiny hole in your skull. Okay, I mean, I would probably never do that, but the implant is a small coin-sized device with very thin, flexible threads carrying over 1,000 electrodes. So instead, before you were reading full brain patterns, now they know the exact spot on the brain to put the device in order to read all the signals that you need. These threads are surgically inserted into the cerebral cortex using a specialized robotic system called the R1 robot to record and stimulate neural activity with minimal tissue damage. The electrodes, I mean, like, you cut open the skull and minimal damage is only so minimal. Something tells me no matter what, it takes a long time to recover from. The electrodes pick up the firing pattern of neurons involved in intended movement, and decoding software translate those signals into actions on a screen or device. So the thing that's difficult here is that things are not the same for everyone. When you're looking at like brain patterns, there's similarities, but kind of like a fingerprint, everyone is a little bit different. And so the issue, as much as it's difficult to like read the signals, it's also difficult to decode the signals, because the specific decoding is going to be a little bit different for everyone. And maybe this is where AI can help, but adjusting the decoding to match your specific signals is what is the difference between a failed product and an effective product in this kind of area. The whole thing is wireless and rechargeable. you gotta like stick a battery to the top of your head to charge. I'm saying this as a joke, but this is probably also what they do. Like, they probably put it in a headset that you gotta put on, but it's like a battery in the thing in your head. Kind of like how you can put your phone on a wireless charger. You gotta put the wireless charger to your brain. So there are no wires coming out of the head. I mean, that is a problem you do have to fix. On scale and the people using it. As of late January 2026, Neuralink said it had 21 total participants enrolled in trials worldwide, up from the 12 reported in September 2025. I expect this will go up massively pretty quickly. As the capacities of Neuralink expand, you're gonna get a lot more people that, like, we're gonna see it fixing like disabilities, because those are the people most likely to allow a robot to cut a hole in their head and put a little chip in there. But as its capacities expand, you will get more and more people that'll do it. The first human implanted was in January 2024 in Norland Ogburn, a quadriplegic man. The company reports a record of 0 serious device-related adverse events, though that's their own characterization. And long-term independent safety data is still accumulating. Enrollment is currently limited to people with serious motor impairment, quadriplegic from spinal cord injuries, ALS, or brainstem stroke. It is still an investigatory words, early feasibility study, and not an approved commercial product. What it can do today, demonstrated by real participants. The first patent has used it to play the first patient has used it to play video games, browse the internet, post on social media, and move a cursor on a laptop, all through thought alone. Participants have used 3D Divine software and played games like chess and Mario Kart. In a separate strand of work, participants have started learning to move a robotic arm using only brain signals, controlling its position, gestures, and even precision grip. This is the thing, right? The first iterations are obviously always the worst, and this is an area I expect to see great advancement in a short period of time. The amount of money, like I think AI is actually hurting a lot of other areas of development that could be very profitable and beneficial to humanity. And this is one of the areas I think should be getting a lot more money that isn't. Using it with AI to like specifically decode. The issue is that everyone, as I brought up earlier, everyone's brain's a little different, kind of like a fingerprint. But if you can use an AI and allow them to essentially learn allow the system to learn what you mean when you think something, with feedback, then you can create a system that can decode much better. And with that, you could see much more adoption once this improves, because that would lead to rapid improvement in the system. And with rapid improvement, you would see rapid adoption, in my opinion. Robotic arm work is a second study, the Convoy study, running alongside the main cursor control trial, Prime. It investigates neural control of assistive robotic arms with goals like picking up objects, heating food, drinking from cups, eating, operating wheelchairs, and controlling smartphone devices using thought, essentially restoring physical independence rather than just digital interaction. Geography isn't expanded beyond the US. Neuralink announced its first UK participant in October 2025. Relevant to you in Alberta, Neuralink Patient Registry is now accepting applications from Canadian residents to assess primary eligibility for future clinical trials in Canada. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, you still probably have to have a severe disability, but it sounds like Canadians will get a chance to get a chip put in their brain. A few things worth flagging as not real yet, since you get a lot of breathless coverage. Blind sight, a separate implant meant to restore vision by stimulating the visual cortex, received an FDA breakthrough device designation in June 2025 and has had human trials targeted for 2026. But as far as the reliable reporting goes, it hasn't been implanted in a person yet. Claims you'll see about superhuman vision and fair perception, intelligent enhancements, or AI symbiotic come largely from Musk's public statements and promotional blogs, not from demonstrated results. For commercial availability, analysts anticipate a first release for paralysis patients around 2028 and further trial phases and regulatory approval. So the honest summary, today Neuralink's reliability restores digital control, cursor, computer games, communications for a small number of people with severe paralysis, and is in early stages of extending that to physical robotic control, vision restoration, and the more sci-fi cognitive claims remain aspirational rather than currently capacities. One note on sources, Neuralink milestone have heavy self-reported and surrounded by a lot of hype-driven coverage. So the figures above lean on Reuters, the company's own updates, and clinicaltrial.gov rather than the boasters' blogs. the boosters blogs. If you want, I can dig into. No, let's have a look at a couple of videos.
We're starting off
about what it can actually do.
With reducing human suffering. Our first product is called telepathy, and that enables.
I mean, I'm stopping it instantly. Look at that. So these are the nodes that'll read brain signals. And so did these each individually have to be put in the exact right position? Or do you just put them on there and then you get the full reading and you decode that reading? And a lot of the interpretation is done externally rather than needing to be incredibly precise internally. That would make more sense.
Telepathy, and that enables someone who lost the ability to command their body to be able to communicate with a computer.
I'm thinking and a cursor is moving on a screen. It blew my mind. It's not a matter.
I mean, like, this is not a large step. We have had the ability to, like I said, when I was going through university, we had nodes you could put on your head and it could read brain signals, and then you can create a computer to interpret the brain signals. It wasn't very delicate, and like moving a cursor, probably not possible. Like, what do you get them to think to move the cursor? They've reduced noise by obviously implanting directly into the brain. You don't have the skull and hair and everything in the way, so you can get a much better signal, and then made it easier to interpret. I still think the make or break for this is going to be in the decoding. How do you decode the signal from the brain? That is where I imagine is the difference with Neuralink compared to the old technology I've seen.
If I can do something, but like how?
It's been nothing short of miraculous. Before the implant, I was locked in, nonverbal, quadriplegic. Now I control my computer just by thinking, and the rewards have been immense for me.
ALS hits you like a pound of bricks. I am not able to do things that other dads can, but now he thinks it's so cool that I can do things that other dads cannot.
It's great to control a computer. That's a huge step. The Convoy team is the team at Neuralink that's working on assistive robotic devices controlled by the brain implant, physical independence in the real world.
I was moving the different directions and the different axes with, I don't know, it's pretty incredible just to think about. It's really good feeling.
The thing is, this is incredibly valuable data. Like, putting this work in and getting this data, AI is very good at data analysis and data interpretation. If you get enough of this data, you can make it better, and you can make it faster, and you can make the decoding and individualization of it faster. Because a lot of the problems you run into here is that when
it's really good feeling.
When you're controlling an arm like this, all the data is very specific to this individual, and trying to relate that data to another individual who gets it is actually, like, you don't want them starting at zero again to train. You need them to like start off where this left off, but with how brain signals work, and that's difficult. I think AI could assist there. Anyway, let's continue.
It's capable of.
I'm going on a
It
tangent.
was incredible to be able to just gesture with an arm again, gaining functionality that I thought was gone forever was so incredibly life-changing.
Like most ALS patients, Kenneth was losing his ability to speak. The real value of the brain-computer interface is that it would give Kenneth his voice back.
There we go.
I'm talking to you with my mind.
Everyone gets his own color.
Will be blue.
You're gonna do that?
Yes, please. I'm done with my turn.
Our next product is Blind Sight, which will enable those who have total loss of vision, including if they've lost their eyes or the optic nerve,
Oh, so the blind sight's done by them.
to be able to see again.
The future of this technology feels almost unlimited. We're
Yes,
going to continue
I agree.
advancing the quality of the sensors, the number of the sensors. Surgery will advance, robotics is going to advance, and we are finding ways to apply it across all regions of the brain as we find new ways to refine and enhance its capabilities. So it really feels like the sky's the limit for what we can do to help. How's it feel, Audrey?
Life-changing. Life-changing. I could not ask for more. All with my mind. All with my mind.
That's incredible. Like, this is incredible technology, and I do believe that the future of it is limitless. Watch one more. on this part of
There
this.
we go.
I'm talking to you with my mind.
Lose the ability to speak as disease
We're starting
progresses.
off with reducing human suffering. Our first product is called telepathy, and that enables someone who has lost the ability to command their body to be able to communicate with a computer, and the ability to do conceptual, consensual telepathy.
In January of 2026, Ken became the second participant to receive a Neuralink implant.
I mean, this is so new, right? January of this year, we're looking at 5 months ago.
For voice. He will be able to think, and his device will speak for him. And it will sound like him. It will be OG Ken from way back in 2020 before his voice changed.
I'm not certain about whether soulmates exist or not, but if they do, you're mine. I took one look at your dating profile and I was like, wow, hubba hubba. I was smitten.
Ken and I had a whirlwind romance. We met on eHarmony, and we actually texted for 19 hours straight. At the end of that day, he says, you know, can I call you? And when I heard Ken's voice, that was it. It was love at first sound, I guess is kind of the way it is. After we met, we actually started a black car business. He drove people from the airport to meetings. It was at that point where we'd kind of started noticing things changing.
I noticed that when I tried to pay things up upside down, I would fall over.
It just wasn't normal. And during COVID is when we noticed his voice starting to change. In January of 2024, we received the news that Ken had ALS. I remember feeling
It's a
kind of the whole
terrible
weight of the
disease.
world, and it was really scary. I had already lost a husband. I think Ken was worried that he was going to leave me alone again. And that was hard for him.
I like to go out, like to be able to go and do things. I can't even go shopping anymore. And I can't get help. Lots of the time, because people don't understand my speech. It's really frustrating.
It's not only just the muscles not working, but it's the fatigue. You don't realize how much energy it takes to talk until you don't have that energy to waste. And it really takes away independence. Our house got really quiet.
Ooh. Many ALS patients lose complete functional speech within 2 to 3 years after symptoms onset.
Our house got really quiet. It's the silence that comes with ALS. Was kind of one of the things I didn't realize when it started was going to be one of the things I noticed the most.
The Neuralink device gives us something that no other device can give us, which is a single neuron recording from thousands of channels simultaneously. The telepathy products is
Like, I bet you in 10 years, maybe 15, might take a little more than 10, people will be cheating in like online multiplayer games because they have a Neuralink, and it's a faster means of communicating, and so they'll cheat in the competitive games. Like, are you using a Neuralink? That'll be one of the things we'll have to deal with in like 15 years.
It's basically recording the neural activity from the small area in the motor cortex that involve in execution of hand and arm movements. But if we go...
So the motor cortex is a better way to do it then. Because I always thought like spine, but I guess that's too much movement, right? You can't put a device there and have it stay perfectly still like you can under your skull, because nothing's moving there, right?
Only about 2 or 3 inches below, there's another brain area that's involved in execution of speech.
That's deep into the brain. Putting something on top of the brain and something in the brain is very different.
First heard about Neuralink online. And when he saw that they had a patient registry open for people with ALS.
I mean, if you're in Canada now, you can look into that, right? I mean, maybe that's worth doing if you have severe... I don't know which one was open. You meant that... You said that Neuralink was accepting patients from Canada. What kind of patients can apply? Might as well look it up.
He signed up that day.
When you have ALS, you have neuron degeneration. You're unable to transport the signal from your brain to your muscles. It's like a severed internet cable. And with the brain-computer interface, you bypass this pathway completely, and you can read directly from your brain to a device to do the things you want to do.
I mean, look at that.
Like most ALS patients, Kenneth was losing his ability to speak. It was slow, it was tired.
How much time you got to put into training something to get it to read turning a cup? Because like that signal and reading that signal in the brain, like, it's an amazing
Tiring and
technology.
difficult,
That is for sure.
and it's something that is progressively getting worse. And so the real value of the brain-computer interface is that it would give Kenneth his voice back. He'd be able to speak comfortably for hours on end by no longer having to speak out loud, but rather just intend to move his mouth silently in a way that's extremely comfortable.
That
He was so excited.
would be difficult.
And I could tell he was excited. I could tell he was a bit nervous.
The only concern I had was the surgery itself, because my lung capacity is lower. Otherwise, I was going home.
Ken had surgery, and they sent him home the next day. It was such a smooth...
Really? Like, brain surgery? I guess if you're putting something on top of the brain. You're not really disturbing the brain. It's just something there that reads the brain. That's crazy. Okay, let's have a look. Good to clarify this because you are really two different bars here. The registry is broad, but the actual trials you'll be screened into are much narrower. For the patient registry itself, the entry requirements are fairly open. You must be 18 years old, meet the age majority in your province or territory, and be a US or Canadian resident. Beyond that, it's open to people with a wide range of neurological and physical conditions. A Canadian applicant needs to have quadriplegic, paraplegic, vision loss, hearing loss, the inability to speak, and or major limb amputation affecting above or below the elbow and above or below the knee. In Alberta, the age of majority is 18, so that threshold is met at 18 for you. It's worth being clear about the registration actually age though. Joining the registry does not enroll you or guarantee enrollment in any future clinical trials, and it isn't even a prerequisite for participating in one. It's a way for Neuralink to collect basic health information and medical records to determine pre-legitimary eligibility for future trials once they become available in Canada. And at the moment, Neuralink does not have any active clinical trials running in Canada. So registry signals interest and gets you into the screening pool. It isn't a path to an implant in the near term. Oh, okay. The actual trials that exist today in the US and device studies generally have much stricter eligibility to be a candidate for the main PRIME study. The typical criteria are narrower, being at least 19, in some jurisdictions 22, having quadriplegic with no improvement for at least 1 year, and having a consistent caregiver. In practice, the trials target adults with quadriplegia due to spinal cord injuries or ALS that has been stable without improvement for at least a year. There are also exclusions. People with other implanted medical devices, a history of seizures, or a need for regular MRIs are not eligible. You can't have metal in you, right? For an MRI. So that one, that's out. So in short, the registry casts a wide net across paralysis, sensory loss, speech loss, and amputation, but the trials currently being run are focused specifically on people with stable quadriplegia from spinal cord or ALS. The vision, hearing, and speech condition in the registry list apps onto products that aren't yet in human trials. So for those applications are essentially being cataloged for the future rather than enrolled in anything active. So the implanted device reads signals in the motor cortex. Is that then mapped in order to determine how the person would move? And then that translated to a computer. Let's see what it can dig up.
Food process. You would have never known sort of 2 days down the road that anything had ever happened.
Because your brain is just like little electrical signals, right? Being shot off continuously across the brain. And you can measure electrical signals. And so that's what the device with all the little dangly things are. These little nodes that they probably place across your motor cortex or whatever. And then they can read the signals, and these are all the signals from this part of your brain that controls movement. And then you can map that. That's the hard part though.
We stayed in Dallas for a time after the surgery.
Decoding.
We just did our second voice participant surgery last week. Today will be our first day with BCI. We'll go in, show him how to use his charger, how to use his app, and
so it's not a headset. It's a little charger they put beside your brain. So this one, the the movement one is on top, and this one is deeper by the looks of it.
How to use his app, and we will guide him for some sentences to attempt to say, and we'll use that
Training data?
to try to map neural intent to the actual words.
That's the hard part right there. The mapping, try to get him to say stuff, and then you map that out.
Yes.
I mean, like, if you do this enough times, you could get AI that would be able to figure out and then adjust it really quickly. And it could continuously adjust it rather than just the initial setup.
This is it.
I guess when they still have some speech, it's easier.
Then they have that.
So when a user gets a brain-computer interface, it's sometimes
like he can then not think about saying the words without actually moving to say the words, and then have the computer record that. That is
it's
crazy.
important for them to play around with their behavior to see what works best. What we did was Kenneth slowed down a little bit and tried to enunciate kind of the individual sounds of his sentence. And really, like, out of nowhere, we went from 0 to 100 with the model.
Really?
Plane in Spain says mainly on the plane. Ow!
The rain in Spain stays mainly on the plane.
And then it's just like voice stuff, right? It's training a voice model off old voice records to get it to say that.
That's exactly what it said.
Hey.
Come on in.
Oh, nice to see you, Charlotte.
Nice to see you guys.
Good morning.
Come on in.
Good morning, Kenneth.
Good to see you.
We're still in an early phase here, but Kenneth is helping us build the future.
We'll start with some data collection, just to collect some sentences. After that, we'll train some models and get going.
Yep.
We'll do these at half speed with mouthing, and just continue in that direction.
Decoding silent mouth movement.
Siri, turn on lights in every room. I think this is awesome.
The goal is, like, we want him to be able to simply just intend to move his mouth, and for our BCI to decode his speech.
There we go.
I'm talking to you with my mind.
Nice
I
work.
got it.
What was different there?
And that's easy in my head.
Putting more effort in, more intention. It's
Yeah.
modulating your neural signals more.
I am the very model of a modern major general.
Just thinking
Neuralink
really
has
hard about
given us
talking.
not only Ken's voice back, but it's really given us a boost. It's given us the chance for Ken
mean,
to
like-
kind of be a pioneer.
Like hope for the future, right? ALS is a gradual decline, usually pretty quick. Doesn't end well, and just he can talk a little now, so you got the model trained, but you'll be able to use this on people that have already like fully lost the voice. To be able to just hear a few words from a loved one can mean so much to people. Man.
What excited me, they fired it up and he told me that he loved me. In OG Ken voice. So emotional for me to hear it the way I heard it on the phone all those years ago. Yeah, something else.
I am finally able to talk to you.
We're going to continue advancing the quality of the sensors, the number of the...
This is the worst it'll ever be. Remember that. Like, it'll get better from here.
sensors. We want to build a system that goes directly from the brain to voice in real time. And Kenneth will have instantaneous feedback and control of this voice.
Everyone gets his own color.
Will it be blue?
I am going to pay 3 to play Search for Life.
I will take 3.
You're gonna do that?
Yes, please. I'm done with my turn.
Nothing has given me a purpose.
And like the model trained here is what'll be used to advance further, right? Like you are a pioneer in a field of research.
Work together to make this thing better. Maybe I can't cure illness, but I can participate in research and can give feedback. It will give us back a voice. And the voice is a very important thing to have.
It is.
It would be a total waste of who I am if I didn't do all the good you possibly do. Before I take out, go to be with the Lord. And that's the number one reason I'm doing this. Because I'm doing good for others. And that is the best thing of all.
You are the captain of your own ship. Make the most of what you're given in life.
I mean, powerful. Yeah, I think this technology is going to come a long way very quickly. I think it has the potential to go a long way yet. Watch that one. All right, I'm gonna move on. That is something I wanna continue to follow. My check-in on is getting a lot longer. As long as I'm getting out of here. Alright, I think I'm going to look through some news. See for anything that stands out to me. And then I'm probably going to get off. Let me check. Hey, I got something. Achievement. Okay, don't care. Let's have a look at what's news. We'll update it because there's always new stuff coming out. Cut. 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 Perfect. Okay. What was last on the Liberals' to-do list before summer? I don't care. Funeral for OPP constable held in Mississauga, Ontario. Okay. Toronto police arrested another suspect in U.S. consulate synagogue shooting. What? What is that?
We want to bring you now an important update on a story that
Here we
we've
go.
been covering for the past week or so. Toronto police have now arrested a suspect who was wanted for a shooting at the U.S. consulate in Toronto in March. The 19-year-old is...
I remember hearing about that. So they finally found the guy that was responsible?
now in custody and facing charges. And importantly, he was also involved in a shooting that took place involving a police officer last week. So for more on all of this, let's bring in the CBC's Mark Carcassol. He's been tracking the details here. What have we learned today?
Yeah, Arthur, we knew for a few days that police were on the lookout for 19-year-old Zara Jabi, and they made that arrest at Pearson International Airport in Mississauga. Now,
airport? That sounds like he was trying to get out. Like he was making a run for it. U.S. consulate shooting. Can you give me more details about the U.S. consulate shooting that happened in Toronto?
He is facing 6 charges. They include discharge of a firearm into or at a place, attack on premises of internationally protected persons, and theft of a vehicle. We don't know what.
So nobody was actually shot, by the sounds of it, right? Okay. Here's what happened with the shooting at the U.S. consulate in Toronto. The shooting took place on the morning of March 10th, 2026. So we're looking at... Oh, it's a couple months ago. It took him a while to find this guy. At the consulate on University Avenue in downtown Toronto, police alleged a white Honda CR-V was headed west on Dundas Street when the driver turned south on University Avenue and stopped in front of the consulate, with 2 suspects firing multiple rounds at the building before fleeing in the stolen vehicle. They stole a vehicle, shot at the U.S. consulate building, and then drove away. What compels you to do this? That is a very dumb thing to do. Okay, the building was damaged, but no injuries were reported. That's good. The vehicle was later found abandoned. Police initially labeled it as national security incident and increased security outside U.S. and Israeli diplomatic posts in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. What makes this case notable is the broad context police have since described. Toronto Police Chief Myron Damwick said investigators believe the consulate attack is part of a reoccurring pattern of criminal for hire, where young people are recruited through encrypted messaging apps to carry out attacks against various targets and are required to film the attacks in order to get paid. The consulate shooting is reportedly one of dozens across the Greater Toronto Area linked to these guns for hire networks, and the pattern overlaps with separate shooting at synagogues and Jewish schools in the GTA. That's not good. That's not good. Like, you can face real time shooting at, even just shooting at a building, especially like an international consulate. On the arrest, police charged 18-year-old Sheldon Tracy Stalwart and then arrested the second suspect, 19-year-old Zara Jabi, who is facing several charges including theft of a motor vehicle, possession of property obtained by crime, discharging a firearm at a place, and attack on premises of international protected person. That one's gonna get you. That one's probably the one that's gonna put you in for a long time. Because discharging a firearm at a place, I don't think you go to jail for a long time for that. Like, I think you do see jail time. But if you didn't intend or hit anyone, possession of a property obtained by no idea. Theft of a motor vehicle, I think you go to prison for that one too. An attack on a premise of internationally protected person, that's just like the cherry on top. You're probably in there for a long time. Jabbies, I mean, talk about screwing your whole life up because you took a for hire job on a social media app or one of these text apps. Jabby's arrest was announced June 18th today, ending a roughly week-long manhunt. Didn't they say that this happened months ago? The shooting took place March 10th. That's a long time ago. Why has there only been a week-long manhunt for him? I'm getting confused with dates here. Let's continue. There's also, they said that the manhunt went on for a week. There's also a tragic development tied to the wider investigation. Constant Marco Pizzetto was fatally shot while officers were carrying out a search related to the investigation. Is this... Constable held him in the funeral. Okay. So this is directly related. Constable Tarambal. Maybe not. The name's different. The man accused of shooting him, 19-year-old Nicholas Bennett, was shot and injured by police and was charged with first-degree murder along with offenses related to 2 other shootings. On the question of who's behind these networks, the picture is still developing. Okay, I don't really care about the networks.
What Jabi was allegedly doing at Pearson Airport, you can only speculate, but police have not said.
Sounds like he was trying to
wondering why we're
leave
not showing a picture of him when we were previously, it's because a court order allowing us to do so has since expired. There was a temporary court order out allowing the media to show the picture of Jabi, which was taken of him as a minor. He's 19 years old now, but it's an older picture, so we can't show it to you anymore. Now, during a raid in Toronto's West End on June 11th, police arrested another suspect who was collected.
I mean, clearly I can't show you, but I wanna find the image of him. I'll leave this going.
Connected, to the U.S. consulate shooting. That would be 18-year-old Sheldon Tracy Stewart. During that same raid, Toronto Police Emergency Task Force Constable Mark Pinizzato was shot and killed. Police arrested 19-year-old Nicholas Bennett in relation to the shooting of Constable Pinizzato. As far as the U.S. consulate shooting goes, police allege on the morning of March 10th that a stolen Honda CRV pulled up outside the U.S. consulate on.
I tried to close it and I almost closed OBS. That would have been the exact end of the stream. Here we go. I gotta click off that. Here we go.
University Avenue in downtown Toronto, that 2 men who police allege were Jabi and Tracy Stewart got out of the vehicle, fired shots at the building. No one was injured, though there was damage done to the building. Police say that those suspects in this case, according to them, are hired guns.
No, that's like apartment complex.
Paid to carry out the attack, and this debate has gone up to the federal government level as well. Yesterday, in question period, during a debate around Bill C-22, the Conservatives accusing the Liberals of trying to ram the bill through by passing a motion to limit debate on the bill. The Secretary of State for Combating Crime, Ruby Sahota, talked about why the Liberals were trying to get this bill passed so quickly. In her words, she said that law enforcement needed it to be so quick, and she gave a little more information on exactly where she believes, and I guess.
What is Bill C-22 in Canadian Parliament?
Guess where government authorities believe this hiring campaign is coming from.
Mr. Speaker, every day that we wait, more and more victims are created in Canada. Take, for example, the shootings at the synagogues that have just happened recently. Those shooters were paid for hired by a foreign entity, Mr. Speaker, in our country, online. Had we been able to find those shooters sooner, there would be less victims, Mr. Speaker.
Hired by a foreign entity. That is the key term. Toronto police did not use those words. They said they're still looking for the people who are paying these people. So a little extra information there. Last month, U.S. authorities arrested 32-year-old Iraqi national Mohammed al-Sadi on terror charges. Court documents show that they believe he is guilty of planning the U.S. consulate shooting. And in wiretaps in those court documents, they say they hear him say that he has people in other countries who planned those attacks, including the U.S. consulate attack and allegedly 3 attacks at synagogues in Canada.
Okay, thank you for this, Mark. That is the CBC's Mark Carcassonne.
Some foreign actors doing that, which is a dangerous thing. The current Parliament, Bill C-22 is the Lawful Access Act 2026. Given your interest in Canadian policy, here's the rundown. The bill was tabled on March 12th, 2026, so that's a couple months back. Right after the shooting, because wasn't that on the 10th? By Public Safety Minister Gary... Nope. It contains provisions regarding lawful access to information from electronic services providers as part of criminal investigations by law enforcement and CSIS. It would compel telecommunication providers to identify without a warrant whether individuals under reasonable suspicion of criminal activities are users of their service, and require electronic service providers to assist in providing data to law enforcement when requested. The backstory is what makes it interesting. C-22 is a standalone bill that revisits the lawful access provisions originally contained in parts of... Okay. It's getting... The government says C-22 is a narrower version of what was in C-2. It retains the overall architecture and intent of the original regime, but narrows the proposed demand power, both in who can be targeted, telecommunication service providers only, and in what can be demanded, only confirmation of service, not subscription information or other details. It also adds accountability mechanisms, including mandatory parliamentary review, while adding a new power to enact metadata retention regulations applicable to core providers. The opposition hasn't gone away, though. The concerns being raised in debate and by outside group clusters around a few themes. Let's see what they are. Encryption. Industry groups, including the Canadian Chamber of Commerce Cybersecurity Council, have warned the laws as written could create conditions for encryption and privacy to be compromised. And white hat hackers have warned it could make it easier for criminals to penetrate Canadian systems. Metadata retention. A parliamentary petition called on the House to withdraw the bill or vote against it to remove suspicionless bulk metadata retention requirements. Remove suspicionless bulk metadata retention requirements. I don't even understand that. So metadata I get. So this is, it would require your service, your telecommunication service to store your metadata. What is that? And to be explicitly prohibit any future lawful access legislation from requiring the weakening of encryption. Regulatory discretion. Critics argue the government retains broad regulatory powers to redefine key terms, including encryption and systematic vulnerability, without returning to Parliament, which they say renders the bill stated privacy protections unreliable. Where else did it say metadata? Up here. While adding a new power to enact metadata retention regulations applicable to core providers. Does this mean that your service provider would be forced to keep your metadata on hand? In Parliament, Conservatives have been probing the bill rather than outright rejecting it. In April debate, one MP pressed the minister for reassurance that the bill would in no way enable a backdoor into encrypted communications, referencing the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliament report on lawful access, while framing the Conservative position as being open to modernizing the law, but questioning whether this is the right way to do it. On process, the Minister of Justice tabled a charter statement. So this is all so that they can try and catch this type of criminal before this happens, correct? So that they can go to a service provider and be like, what's the metadata on this person that they think is involved in this type of getting paid for a specific crime. I don't know. One quick caveat worth flagging. There have been other bills numbered C12 in the past Parliament. Okay, that's just short answer. Not automatically by the bill itself, but yes, the bill creates the legal machinery to make that happen, and the obligation would fall on the provider, not requiring anything from you. Yeah, but that means they're keeping all your metadata. I mean, I don't know what it can be used for, but metadata can say a lot of things. Here's the important distinction. The bill text itself doesn't directly order anyone to retain metadata. Instead, Section 5D2D authorizes the governor in council to make regulations respecting the retention of categories of metadata, including transmission data as defined in the criminal code, for reasonable period of time not exceeding 1 year. So the law sets up the power, and the actual retention requirement would be filled in later through regulation. Government officials told the committee that the specifics of what metadata must be retained, for how long, and even what counts as core provider will all be developed after the legislation becomes law, though through consultations, and those regulations could be redrafted after without new legislations. So to your question directly, if those regulations are made, then yes, your service provider, if designated as a core provider, would be legally compelled to retain your metadata for up to a year. Critics describe this as mandatory metadata retention that would require telecom and electronic service providers to store information about communication of all their users, regardless of whether those users are suspicious of any or suspected of anything. The suspicionless part is the crux of the controversy. It's retention of everyone's data by default, not data about people under investigation. I mean, let's keep going. I don't know how to feel about this one yet. A few things worth knowing about the scope and limits. What it would cover. The metadata in question includes transmission and location data. In practical terms, that means the government could require cell phone companies to track the location of devices for up to a year, so that law enforcement and CSIS can later access that data in a given judicial authorization. Oh. Like, that feels like a violation of privacy to me. Do they really need this to catch this kind of criminal? Like, don't they have the suspect already in cuffs? Like, I feel like the system caught them, right? Give them a big sentence. Make it so that they never get out of jail. And that'll dissuade other people from doing it. I don't know if you need this to be able to track everywhere they've been for a year in order to put a criminal that shot up a consulate into jail. What's carved out? Section 5.4 excludes retention of information that would reveal the content of communications, a person's web browsing history, or a person's social media activity. Supporters point to these exclusions as meaningful guardrails. Critics counter that metadata alone is still highly revealing. It is. The Canadian Bar Association notes that metadata includes very sensitive information such as location data and calls this a dramatic expansion from BC2. Oh, so they think it's even larger. Like, we caught them. We were putting them in jail. The system of accountability worked. Why are they trying to expand it? Is it to try and tackle this new type of crime? I don't think you need it. Like, you got the guy. Clearly you don't need the metadata to catch him. Right? I don't know, I'm starting to dislike this bill. This new, what is it, C22. And they appear to be trying to force it through. Okay, where was I? Access versus retention. There's a two-step structure that's easy to conflate. Retention is the requirement to keep the data on hand. Access is separate. Government officials say the retained metadata can only be obtained by investigators through a judicial warrant. Jess' objection is essentially about the first step. He argues the government is building this massive haystack of data with the thought that they might need to find the needle every once in a while. It may not stop at core providers. This is a point critics emphasize. The bill would let the Minister of Public Safety order other electronic service providers to comply with retention regulation, subject to approval of the Federal Intelligence Commissioner for a criminal or national security investigation. Geist argues this means the obligation could extend to virtually any digital service, not just the named providers. For context on how unusual this is, there is no federal mandatory metadata retention law in the United States. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act allows law enforcement to request preservation of existing data when there are grounds rather than blanket retention. France and Sweden recently abandoned similar proposals, and EU courts in digital rights, Ireland and Tele2 service struck down comparable bulk retention regime. The model it most resembles is the UK Investigatory Powers Act. I'm not liking the sounds of this. So the accurate way to put it, the bill wouldn't force retention the moment it passes, but it hands the government the authority to require it through regulation. And if exercised, that obligation would land on your provider and apply to your metadata regardless of whether you're suspected of anything. Whether or how aggressively that power gets used would come down to the regulations drafted afterwards, which is exactly why privacy advocates are uneasy about so much being left to regulation rather than written into law. Oh, so they want to see the full law written out, because it can be abused in its current form. Is this kind of new law necessary? Didn't they catch the guy responsible for this? How would this help? Did I get through this? I did. Okay. That is a first for me. Okay. I should probably finish this before I start looking at new ones. Okay. 3 good questions bundled together. Let me separate them because the answer to is it necessary depends on a lot on which problem you think the bill is solving, and the consulate case is actually a useful test of that. On whether they caught the consulate suspect, yes, both were arrested, and notably, that happened without any of the powers in C-22. The case was cracked through fairly traditional means: surveillance footage, the suspect. The suspects filmed themselves. Oh, if you're filming yourself doing a crime, it's over. It's over for you. They're gonna get you. Rule 1 of being a criminal: don't film yourself. Which is part of the gun for hire MO. A stolen vehicle. I mean, I get it. The gun for hire MO is that you film yourself and you post your thing and then you get your paid. But you're not getting away with it if you filmed yourself. A stolen vehicle found abandoned and conventional police investigations. So in that specific instance, the existing toolkit worked. That cuts against the idea that this particular case demonstrates a need for the bill. Yep. But the government isn't really arguing C-22 is about cases like the consulate shooting, where there's good physical and video evidence. Its argument is about a different category of investigation. The stated rationale runs roughly like this. General modernization. Officials have pointed to elapsed time and technological change, the growth of digital service providers, outdated interception standards, and the fact that Canada lacks the enhanced lawful access legislation that other Five Eyes countries have. Then shouldn't we make legislation like theirs? Digital evidence is now central. The government says the bill is needed because criminal investigations increasingly depend on digital evidence, and existing processes can be too slow or unclear for modern online crime. I agree in a lot of these, like general modernization. Digital evidence is becoming more important. I don't know if this metadata thing is the way to do that. Pointing to child exploitation, human trafficking, fraud, extortion, organized crime, terrorism, and foreign interference as offenses were digital identifiers. Subscriber information or metadata may help identify suspects. Oh. Like when they bring all this up, like that's definitely a convincing argument. Like it's hard to land on the side of fraudsters and organized crime. Speed in time-sensitive cases. Child protection witnesses describe investigations involving missing or exploited youth where timely access to digital leads can affect whether police locate a child before further harm. The argument being that it's not just whether information can eventually be obtained, but whether it can be obtained quickly enough to be useful. They make a lot of good cases after I just decided I disliked it. So now I don't know anymore. Now, how would it help, and would it have helped here? This is where it gets interesting in light of our earlier conversation. The consulate shooting was tied to criminals for hire networks, and police say those networks recruit young people through encrypted messaging apps. That's exactly the scenario lawful access proponents point to. The recruiters and organizers are harder to reach than the teenagers who pull the trigger. An RCMP superintendent told the Globe and Mail that access to metadata could be useful to track and identify people. I mean, yes, that it would indeed be useful for that. Including at the scene of shooting. So the government's strongest version of the argument isn't this would have caught the shooters. They were caught. but this could help reach the people behind the networks, and metadata retention means the trail isn't already cold by the time investigators get a warrant. Okay, so they did a very good job. Let's see what the critics got to say. The pro camp did a good job convincing me. Now time to hear the critics' opinion. No demonstrated gap. The Canadian Bar Association notes the government has not actually cited investigations that are hindered by current provisions or technical limits that prevent providers from satisfying lawful access orders today. In other words, if existing tools keep solving cases, as they did with the consulate shooting, where's the proven need? The haystack objection. As Michael Guest framed it earlier, mandatory retention means building a massive database of everyone's metadata on the chance investigators later need a piece of it, rather than targeting people under suspicion. I mean, we build massive databases already. Like, all police camera footage that is recorded is in a massive database. But those are people that are obviously employed as officers of the law. This is just collecting metadata on every citizen, because they all use a service provider, right? And so you'd be collecting metadata, which includes location information. And in the case that, like, you're charged of a crime, they can gain access to it with a warrant. I get the where's the proven need. The encryption trade-off. Major tech companies and privacy advocates argue the bill demands would weaken or break encryption, a safeguard relied on by activists, lawmakers, journalists, and ordinary Canadians. Signal has said it would withdraw from the Canadian market rather than comply, and cryptographers have argued for over a decade that there's no way to build a backdoor for lawful access that adversaries can't also use. Ooh. If you collect this data, other people are also going to gain access to it. Which means you just fundamentally there'll be other people that'll suddenly be able to track your location information on your phone. That's dangerous to have. That's dangerous to build. That adversaries can't also use. I don't know. The critics also did a very good job. It's worth noting the government has conceded some ground here. In late May, Public Safety Minister... okay. Oh my goodness. What a name. What a name. Let's get a reading of the name.
Anand Singri.
Something tells me that didn't do it justice.
Anand Singri.
Anna Distingri. Alright. That's as close as I'm going to get. Minister Anna Distingri said he would propose amendment to better safeguard encryption and clarify what metadata has to be stored, though he remained firm that the bill would become law, calling it something that needs to happen. He also accused U.S. tech companies of misinterpreting the proposal. Like, the location information stuff is kind of what frightens me. Suddenly they could track your entire location. Who is this? This is the Canadian minister, right? Images. Setgree. propose amendments to better safeguard encryption. Encryption is a scary one. Like, if you're collecting this data, but I guess, like, we haven't seen leaked body cam footage, right? Wait. We have. That case with Reckless Ben. All of the, because a lot of the police body cameras was redacted, and then that case got popular, and all of a sudden you got the unredacted version of it. They didn't release that. That was like hacked or released. So all of a sudden I'm a lot more concerned about the government collecting this data. Like, if it was only accessible to them, I wouldn't care so much. Like, if it helps them solve crimes, metadata, maybe not. Location, I don't know. I personally have no intentions of committing a crime, so like I don't really care so much. But there's a track record of this getting out, and other people being able to access it, and that worries me. Now I'm worried about what they actually collect, and this all stems from like where's the proven need, because they were able to catch the people still. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, all the Reckless Ben body cam footage just got released, right? That was government controlled servers. Somebody got in there and released it. How can you ensure that that doesn't happen here? You can't. It will happen. They need better regulations on what's actually collected. I don't know. I'm back to disliking it. It's been a real roller coaster. It's been like, dislike, like, dislike, like, dislike. Ugh. So to pull it together, whether it's necessary is genuinely contested, and reasonable people land in different places. The honest summary is that the consulate case shows existing tools can work for evidence-rich crimes, which is part of why critics say the necessity hasn't been demonstrated. The government's case rests less on cases like that and more on harder digital investigations. Encrypted networks, child exploitation, foreign interference. Like these are all good reasons. That is a convincing argument. Where it argues the trail goes cold without retained metadata and faster access. The core dispute is whether that benefit justifies blanket retention of everyone's metadata and the security risks of compelling providers' cooperation. That's a value in evidence judgment rather than a settled fact, and it's the question the Parliament Committee has been chewing on. Man, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, UK's Investigatory Powers Act. You said this legislation is similar to the UK's Investigatory Powers Act. Can you give me information on that? Has that act been successful at preventing crime, while at the same time protecting people's information? Been successful at preventing crime, at the same time protecting people's information. Let's see. Because I mean, I don't know. I'm not a criminal, so generally I just don't care if the government wants to gather a little bit more information. But at the same time, like we've seen the information get out. The understanding that this information could get out should be considered. What we have then needs to be considered more carefully, because even if I don't care if the government has my information, I do care if it's like random people could get it. Like that could be a problem. This is a fair thing to ask, and the honest headline is that has it worked is surprisingly hard to answer with hard evidence. Even the UK government own review admitted as much. Let me lay it out. What the IPA actually is. So that's the Investigative Powers Act. The Investigative Powers Act 2016 received royal assent in November 2016, introduced by then Home Secretary Theresa May. It was an unusual broad piece of legislation. It covers interception of communications, requests for communications data, equipment interference, hacking, bulk warrants, and technical capacity notice, which is why Edward Snowden called it the most extreme surveillance in the history of Western democracy. Wow. Critics nicknamed it the Snoopers Chapter. The Snoopers Chapter. I like that name more. The parts relevant to the Canadian comparison are the data retention pieces. It mandates retention of internet connection records by communication service providers, tracking which websites and services users access, and allowing bulk collection of metadata and personal data sets, including records of individuals who aren't under any direct suspicion. That no suspicion requirement feature is precisely the parallel to the C-22's metadata retention provision. Notably, the UK actually goes further than Canada's bill proposal on one front. It can require retention of internet connection records, browser-level data, which C-22 explicitly carves out. Has it prevented crime? Here's the genuinely striking part. When the UK government did its own statutory post-implementation review, it couldn't actually demonstrate the crime prevention benefit. The review stated that the extent to which the act disrupted criminal activity, particularly serious and organized crime, and helped safeguard national security is unknown due to the absence of data available and the sensitivity of these operations. Oh, so that's not a yes or a no. And that it had not been possible to do a well-evidenced benefit assessment. That's not the same as saying it doesn't work. Intelligence and policing benefits are genuinely hard to measure and often classified. The government and agencies maintain the powers are essential. In justifying later amendments, the government argued the regime needed updating to give agency and law enforcement the tools to keep us safe, preventing terrorism, and take on hostile states. And the 2023 independent review by Lord Anderson recommended targeted reforms while keeping the core framework intact. Government material cites case studies and internet connection record trial and operational examples. Okay, we're getting too into the weeds. Has it protected people's information? This is the other half of your question, and the record is mixed to poor depending on the period you look at. The IPA does have real safeguards built in, and they're more robust than what C-22 currently proposes. The most intrusive powers require a double lock. Both a Secretary of State and Independent Judicial Commissioner must approve. The Investigatory Powers Commissioner audits public authorities, use the power to report annually to... Okay, but on the privacy side, it has repeatedly lost in court, which is the strongest evidence that it didn't get the balance right initially. The European Court of Human Rights ruled that GCHQ use of mass surveillance and bulk communication data breach privacy laws and lack sufficient oversight and safeguards. Domestic courts force changes too. Okay, we're getting to. What does this suggest for the Canadian debate? Tying it back to your earlier question. The UK experience doesn't deliver a clean verdict for either side. Supporters can point out the powers are still in place. Agencies insist they're vital, and the oversight machinery functions. Opponents can point out that the government couldn't evidence the crime prevention payoffs, the privacy balance has to be corrected repeatedly by courts, and the powers have only expanded since. If C-22 is IPA-like, the most useful lesson from Britain is probably that the safeguards matter enormously and tend to weaken over time, which is exactly why the fight over C-22 is centered on what gets written into the law versus left to later regulations. One caveat on sourcing: a couple of these points lean on legal industry explainers and advocate groups rather than primary government documents, though the key crime prevention finding comes straight from the UK's government-owned post-implementation review. Okay. I have no idea. Clearly, you want the law to be very clear on this, because anything you leave for later seems to weaken, and so making it very, very clear what the law allows and doesn't allow is important. But at the same time, like I think we generally need an advancement in this kind of like crime prevention, that being up to date here and allowing like modern digital resources to police to try and crack down on some of these crimes is important. But clearly the wording of the legislation is going to be very important. I don't know, because even the conservatives were open to the advancement, or open to the law, as long as it's worded properly. I didn't know the UK had such strict laws around this. Yeah, there was that one guy in the UK that like went to prison for online speech. I remember, what was his name, like Tommy Robinson or something, and he was like held in solitary confinement for a while. I don't know, that seems extreme. Well, I might have to keep track of this one, because even then, the like the UK law had more protections in place, but also gathered far more information. Because Canada's law was just about like metadata and like location services by your provider. So like when you got your location on your phone, and that isn't something they can access, but they can access it with a court order. I don't know. This one feels weird. Generally, I lean towards the government, because I think like a government ID is actually like the system you need in a lot of cases. But you got to be careful, because if you start bulk collecting data, someone can access that data, and who knows what they'll be able to do with it. I'm split on it still. I'll probably continue to be split on it. it's important what gets written into law versus left to later regulations. That's my takeaway. Get the law, make sure everything is written in the law up front. All right. Well, I'm gonna head off. Thanks for watching. I'll be back Monday. I think we had a successful day where I was able to remove more things than I put on. Rare day. I'm gonna have to spend a whole day talking about the Canadian stuff. I did provincial governments. We can remove that one, right? Yeah. There's a couple different, like the Canadian Constitution, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. That's it's gonna have to be a day, which I get into all that. Not gonna be the fun day. All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Peace. Turn the vertical off.